if we get done, we'll move to, if we got at least 15 minutes, we'll do that. I call to order the West Jordan City Council meeting. All council members are present with the exception of Council Member Southworth and Council Member Nichols. Our first order of business is to discuss, and we won't be moving to closed session, this will be an open session, to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property and our negotiations with the county on the former library property. So, I don't guess no even motion to. Sim, this open meeting, I invited Sim Gill to come and discuss the options, the issues with the parking that we have with the trade that we're looking at.
So I'm actually waiting for Nicole Dunn and Megan to come down. I think they were going to come down and speak specifically to that. And I'm certainly here happy to come down and talk in more broad general terms about some of the long-term things that we're hoping to gain here from my perspective as the district attorney, independent from the health department issues that we may be engaged in there. And with your indulgence, maybe I'll take the opportunity to just sort of tell you from my perspective. As you know, the district attorney's office has a presence here because we have the courthouse here. And however the negotiation and term is done, I think the long-term commitment from at least from the district attorney's office really is we're excited about what the future is here in West Jordan. And I don't have to compliment you guys on the fact that this was just voted as the 10th most likely city to live in. There's a reason for that, that we want to do that. But for me, as I've shared this vision with the mayor, is that, for 12 years I worked with the YWCA to create the Family Justice Center up in Salt Lake City. And as the district attorney, I look at it and I see the future of West Jordan. There's Ms. Oliver. As I see the future of West Jordan, I am committed to working with the South Valley Sanctuary, with West Jordan City, and with the District Attorney's Office about creating a community justice center out here as an anchor, as a complement to our presence, working with the courthouse here. I've shared this with the mayor myself, that my concern is that when I think about the next 20 years of development, everybody here knows that we're going to see about 1 million more people, not in the state of Utah, but in Salt Lake County. And the majority of those individuals are going to be coming through here. And I think West Jordan is uniquely positioned than any other community, because you guys are thinking into the future here about how to meet the needs. One of the reasons West Jordan is considered one of the most livable and desirable cities is because of the relationship West Jordan has with its community and the services that they're providing. And the Community Justice Center will serve as the south anchor for the south part of the valley. And it's a vision where, when we're talking about victims of domestic violence, whether we're talking about victims of just crime in general, the idea is very simple, that we have a plethora of services that they try to go to and get, but then they don't get those services. As I explained to Mayor Rolfe, imagine a victim of domestic violence who finally musters up the courage to go get those services, because we as a society said that we want to support you. And she's got 3 children with her. She's in a state of hypervigilance. She goes down and stands in line for 45 minutes, gets to the front, and they say, "Ma'am, we're sorry to tell you, we're actually at the wrong building. You need to go across town." So the idea of the Community Justice Center is that we will work with our partnership with West Jordan Police Department, with West Jordan City, with the South Valley Sanctuary and the District Attorney's Office, in creating a single source spot where any victim of any crime can come down here, and the goal is to wrap those services around them and then move them into the appropriate services beyond that. But there's no wrong door. And that is what we're committed to. And my interest in it, of course, beyond the county, is that as this deal is worked out and we move together is really giving us a critical mass and catalyst with the health department coming down here and the services that they're going to be able to provide and the complement of things that we want to be able to do. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to share with you, that I'm really excited as an independent elected, as the district attorney, and it's a commitment that I'm making to and looking forward to with West Jordan in putting that anchor together. And what that means for us as an independent elected, and what it means for us with our resources and partnership and what we can bring to that conversation, we're committed to doing. So with that, I will turn the time over to Ms. Oliver, I think, who might be able to answer some of the more specific questions as to some of the things that you guys are talking about on that land transaction.
Thank you. Sim.
Good evening. I'm sorry, there was just a touch of traffic and I didn't want to slam into the car in front of me. So Christina Oliver, I'm the Regional Economic Development Director for Mayor Ben McAdams. And tonight I'm here just to talk to you a little bit about the health clinic in partnership with DA Gills. The Honorable DA Gill, I think, is the appropriate terminology. I get corrected by my staff quite often. We are looking at potentially, and please correct me if I'm out of turn or if there's a different topic that you'd like me to address, but we are looking at locating a health center on the west side of your parking lot, on the east side of the park. So it's in a parcel, and Dave Clemens is here and he'll be able to explain it in more detail. This health building is not a warehouse, if you will. There will be some, of course, stocking of supplies, but this is truly is an immunization and a WIC clinic. And we are looking at a multifaceted, multi-location facilities plan for the health clinics. And this will be our southwestern regional center for our WIC people and our immunization clinic. This will be the hub. You are uniquely situated in a government complex that you have created that will have amazing redevelopment outside of the actual government complex to the east on Redwood Road, as well as your track station and your amazing bus accessibility. We have a lot of folks that are sometimes traveling to the WIC clinics and the immunizations for lower cost shots for their children. So there are a lot of children in tow. This will provide really good access for them to be able to ride tracks in the bus and have great access to the other amenities that you provide on campus, which is your free library that offers a lot of entertainment for our young families, and you have a lot of larger households on this side of the valley. So that's what we're really looking at, is where can we provide the biggest bang for the taxpayer dollars. And because your community is, as stated, one of the most highly sought after communities in, candidly, Salt Lake County, we look at locating a facility such as this to provide these lower cost services to your population in a centrally located area. In exchange for that, and please step on up if you'd like to come and talk about the exchange for the old library site, we are requesting that we do an exchange, if you will, of the old library site for a parcel located on the government complex. And I'm going to look at David because he's much more articulate about this exchange than I am.
Council, you might recall that we've talked about this in the past. And I'm not going to, I think the services that they're talking about providing speak for themselves, and I think the council, at least to my knowledge, has been on board with what they're trying to do. The biggest concern, and I could be wrong, is the biggest concern for the city has been up to this date, and maybe even the county, has been the parking issue. As you know, we've got a severe parking restriction. Let me rephrase that. There could become a severe parking restriction if, for city residents who use multiple services here on the city's campus, if we aren't careful about how we craft this agreement between the two parties for the land swap. I don't think any party is asking not to do the land swap, but I think there's been so far a difference of opinion on the staff level of where to go with it. I think city staff and county staff have not exactly known how to craft this agreement simply because there's a parking issue. And Sam, I'm not sure if you know, but our staff had been told by county staff that while they do initially plan to put a health clinic here on the site, which we all want, they see room for growth on that site for other services, and therein lies kind of the quandary that we're in that they're struggling with restricting the parking because they may want to use it for something different. And city, up to this point, city staff has been given direction not to give up on the parking restrictions. So we're not sure where to go from here, and so I guess I'm assuming the purpose of this meeting is to seek direction on how to resolve this issue.
Yeah, we're hoping to. If I might state, we discussed this item at length, and we had a, go ahead, Sim, if you'd like to.
I just want to clarify one thing, that I want to be clear that some of the things that we're talking about, the Community Justice Center, is not this parking issue from my perspective. That's part of this. So when the health clinic is talking about the services that they're providing, they're going to be a complement to what we're doing. And I think it's important to recognize that, for example, at the Family Justice Center with the YWCA, we do have what I call off-site partnerships that we have. And one of the things that we've talked about in the Community Justice Center is to have on-site partnerships, and that will probably be individuals such as treatment components, people who may do case studies, do the case management, and be able to make the referral. So one aspect of that might be physical health services. So I want to make sure that when we talk about the Community Justice Center and whatever its parking issues may be, they're not the same expansion issue when we talk about the health department. I think that's important to keep those issues very distinct and clear. The other thing is that when I think about the future development of the Community Justice Center model, that really would be a separate conversation of a partnership with West Jordan, with the District Attorney's Office. And I think I won't violate any rules in saying that one of the policy discussions that I am very interested in as an independent elected is to discuss the possibility of creating the District Attorney's building as a separate building that is here, and that would maybe house some aspects of the Community Justice Center within that building as a partnership with West Jordan and the DA's office. So when we talk about the programming for that building, then we would take over some of the overflow of the parking that would be tied to that building. And that is not what I want people to maybe misunderstand, that somehow that would be the overflow here. So, for example, I am, one of the policy decisions we have not concluded with my council and my mayor right now is to reach the conclusion how quickly, because as some of you may be aware, that the county has already purchased some land that we already own downtown, that we are committed to building a district attorney's building there. I have been both public and on the record to sort of say that my preference of all things being equal is to actually create two buildings, one downtown and one out here, because I see the both in terms of how you guys are looking at the community as the same way I am looking at the community, and I've been also in discussion with the Third District Court, not only waiting for the demographic shift to occur. There is actually some discussion that is going on that may shift some of the caseloads from the south part of the valley that are ending up downtown to be more localized over here. So that need is going to be maybe present sooner than just the natural demographic shifts that we're anticipating. So I just wanted to take a second to maybe clarify that so there's no misunderstanding about that somehow the Community Justice Center is going to somehow cannibalize that part.
Thank you. Yes.
Is that all right if I just add a couple of points of clarification? We have had a number of discussions, and I would say we've probably had, and I'll take full credit for this, probably a little bit of breakdown in communication. The building that is being proposed on the site is health only, WIC clinic, immunization office. It's not for potential expansion. The parking is a roughly 100, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mistake the number, 120 stalls. If it's
Currently, there's more than 200, but I don't know that how.
I don't
know that we know how many will be required. I'm not sure we know the size of the building.
Yeah, I think they decided, about 120 roughly stalls, but that's based on current planning and zoning. That's not something that we did a study for. That's based on us complying with your planning and zoning. So I just want to make sure that that is clearly stated. The issue with parking that we have, if you want to call it an issue, is we don't need one parking stall marked off for the health clinic today. we need to have certain number of parking stalls to provide services for our health clinic. We need to be able to maintain some semblance of that parking throughout the future. In 10 years from now, when folks are, Councilman, how are you? When folks are looking at possibly, I use this extreme example for fun. So on the west side of the building that we're sitting in right now, let's just say that a satellite campus for Salt Lake Community College was something that the future decision makers decide to build in the parking lot. Those current parking stalls need to be displaced, which we're completely fine with. However, if our children, women and children, can't get into our clinic because a new building has been built on a parcel that's outside of our control, but we have this cross parking arrangement in perpetuity, we're doing a disservice to the taxpayers by putting a $15 to $20 million building that they can't access without having to walk. So our suggestion has been, let's leave it open right now. We'll have a cross easement or add it to the interlocal, or we can all share parking. But in the future, the city will make sure that we have parking available to us, and we can say within a quarter mile. I know that there's some land that's used for parking on the rodeo property. You use it, I believe, 3 days a year. 2 of those days are on the weekend, or one of those days at least, so we're truly only talking about 2 days a year. This isn't something that should kill the deal, but those are the things that we're looking to you to say, council, is that something that you're willing to entertain? We're not saying we absolutely always need 120 stalls, or what, I'm rounding the number, on our parcel, but we need to be within walking distance, and we may mark off, say it's 40 stalls. I know that number had been thrown around. We didn't come up with a number. Whatever it may be, that we mark off right in front of the building for women and children coming in to the clinic, but the employees park off-site. What if they park across Redwood Road? I know the city's future plans are to build a pedestrian bridge over Redwood Road. There are a number of different solutions. So what our proposal is that we enter into the interlocal with language that says the intent is the city and the county will work together for parking and cross easement, and we just take it off. We don't do a cross easement agreement. We add it to the interlocal so we can work together. And that's it.
That's great. Like I said, I came out of the last meeting with a different opinion after meeting with Christina, and I've had the privilege of working with Chief Diamond and Sim Gill on the whole look of what this campus would be for, Sim explained it very well, for the mother with 3 children that comes for protection, being able to have a one-stop place that she could get medical treatment, she can get the kind of protection that she needs, and she won't be turned away and sent across town, because most of them, after waiting in line, are not going to participate in that. So if you look at the big picture, I believe that, this is just my opinion, I just wanted to share that, I believe that we need to work something out with the county such that whatever it takes for parking for both buildings, both the DA's office, everyone knows where the DA's ownership is, just south of the library, right? We need to work and look at the whole picture globally. I was more focused on just the health clinic in the back before, and I believe now I've more caught the vision that whatever we have to do for parking, we need to work as a team, in my opinion, the county and the city. So,
And we'll participate in a parking study. I mean, that's something, I love parking. I don't know why. Apparently that seems to follow me in every job, is working on these studies. But we are more than willing to make accommodations, say that quarter mile. That's not an unreasonable walk for an employee. I walk a half a mile dang near to my office every day, and that's in heels, and it's awkward. But we can do it. So I guess we're just here to say, is it okay if we work together on this deal?
I would like to, if we could, if Lori could come up, and Jen, I'd just like to hear from them as well, if we could, since they, the importance of this particular area, just so the council, I've been in all the meetings, so I've already heard, but I'd just like to hear the importance of the whole entire global picture as it ties to and relates to, the victims specifically, and the health clinic, everything about the health clinic.
Certainly, I'm Lori Bays. I'm the Human Services Director for Salt Lake County. Pleasure to meet all of you. Yes, we are looking holistically at the picture for public health in Salt Lake County, and we are looking at a model similar to what Sim just described to you of having a presence downtown. That's where our largest facility will be, but also having satellite offices in the community. And one of our largest and most growing areas of need is in this portion of the valley. The southwest quadrant is growing, as you're all very well aware, and our need for service provision in this area is growing, and we would like to better serve this part of the valley by building a satellite office here in West Jordan, which would accommodate not only West Jordan residents, but surrounding area residents as well, and help to have more of a community-based approach rather than asking some of our clients to travel long distances. Many of them don't have the ability to do so, at least not with any sort of ease. So to be able to come to a facility here, especially located within this complex, near some of the other services that are available to them here with the library, the rec centers, soon to be the Family Justice Center, we hope. So there will be a complex and a variety of services that will be easily accessible to them within a close walking distance if we're able to participate in this this complex. So it is perfectly suited to meet the needs of the clients that the public health, that our public health services serve, and we hope that you can see that vision as well and how beneficial having access to these services will be in the community. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions?
If I could just add one more thing, that's so essential because when you look at the data that we have at the Family Justice Center, 50% of our people who have been coming through the Family Justice Center are outside of Salt Lake City. So they're coming from the rest of the county. There is a need and demand that is migrating up there because that's the only place that's available. That is why for me, as a public prosecutor, this partnership, this multi-collaborative partnership is so important because the South Valley anchor becomes an essential component as a hub for service because our data is showing that that's what we need.
Thank you. Jen?
Thank you. So Jen Campbell, I'm the Associate Director at South Valley Sanctuary and oversee our Community Resource Center. I love West Jordan. We love being here. We opened in 2013. Last year, we served 233 individuals, and 95 of those were West Jordan residents. And so why we reach out here and why we're here is because exactly what's been mentioned is we know that victims need help, and that further away from Salt Lake, they need help all throughout the valley. And they're coming and they're looking for that place where they can go and someone to walk with them and get help in their resources. It's hard for us to send them downtown. It's closer, it's better with tracks, but it is still another stop away. And that's a deterrent for our victims to get help and to get services. And so I wholly support what we're doing here and that we're thinking about looking at West Jordan and our community and seeing it as a hub for the south end of the valley. We're actually working right now with Riverton City to open another community resource center in a couple of weeks. And the whole goal with them is to get them here to West Jordan and start them to realize that this is a great spot for them to be to get help. And it's that next step. And so in talks that we're having today, the responses I'm seeing from your community, from your citizens here in West Jordan, is that they need help, and they need help on understanding how to access the services that they need. And so they are seeing you. This partnership has been amazing having us here because they see that the city cares and that they acknowledge that domestic violence is happening and that they know that they can come to get help. And I would be happy for questions and that you have from here, but I know that the services are needed and that we hear from your community every day about how they need it.
Jen, do you see the need for the services that you provide and the whole idea that SIM has developed about this community? Do you see that this is going to get less in the future, or what do you see for the future in this south end of the valley, southwest end of the valley?
Yeah, so what I've been seeing with our victims is a greater recognition of the need for resources, that they are in a violent situation. So what does that bring? That brings that need for resources. And so when we have people come in, it's really scary. It's scary to start admitting that they're going through this. And then when they come in and we say, well, this is what we can help you here. Now you got to go downtown. And we spend a lot of our time walking through the process of getting help down at the Family Justice Center is amazing. And it's absolutely right. We send everyone there because those are where our resources are. But from the beginning of being here in West Jordan City, our goal was to bring resources here because the need is here. The people are here. And so that is what I see is that if we really want to say we're ending family violence, we're working to this, we have to bring resources to our community. And we have to acknowledge that and say that it is a need. And part of that, I think, is also spreading that message to our community as well, that domestic violence is something that's impacting us all, but it's something we're committed to work to stop and to bring resources to make that happen. Because we can acknowledge it all we want, but if they don't have a place where they can go to get help with a networked support system, they do not access those services. It's just too much of a barrier to send someone there. So I think in the future, that's what we bring here. We are sending that message that as a community, that is a priority, number one, and that we're actually doing something to show why we want to stop that and what we're bringing in together for our victims.
Thank you.
Let me just add one more thing. Again, I keep apologizing, but this is such an exciting opportunity here. So, for example, what is unique about this model here, what the health department brings is a very critical missing piece that we don't have at the Family Justice Center. The advantage that West Jordan has that the YWCA in Salt Lake City did not have is that the key critical partners are coming together and actually sort of master planning those core critical services. So it gives us actually a much more effective model and a footprint than if we could do it again and we had the opportunity, we would probably do it structurally a little bit different in Salt Lake. The other component is that it's not only in the context of domestic violence, what we are also learning at the Family Justice Center is that we are bringing together a whole core of other services. Elder abuse component now is being staffed because the goal really is not to just think of it in the context of domestic violence, but think of it in the context of family violence. So that means that we are dealing with elder abuse as our population gets older. And those folks who are in need of those services, whether they're being economically exploited or physically being exploited or harmed, those folks are coming into the Family Justice Center as well. We've got law enforcement partnerships that are dealing with, for example, multidisciplinary team approaches for child physical abuse components of it, and we're trying to bring those elements. The adult sexual assault cases are sort of starting to come there. The other advantage that we have, not only would we have the health department here, just within a stone's throw away, we have the Children's Justice Center here as well. So when we start to put these constituent elements together, West Jordan presents actually a fundamentally unique opportunity that is not available anywhere in the valley.
Well, and to follow that, if you look at our West Jordan Domestic Violence Coalition, that's why we have so many members of the community. It's not just our service providers. It is our hospitals. It's our businesses. It's our schools. It's all of these that are here in our community. And that's exactly, I can echo that more, is I feel like that is how we really address family violence, is that we look at our community as a whole and we all assume our role and our responsibility, and we have to train and educate our community on that. And that is really the goal of what we've done here in West Jordan and what we continue to do, is that we all assume our responsibility for what we need to do, but we can't just figure that out on our own. It has to be a partnership where we have experts that come and teach and educate, but then how do we coordinate that together?
If I may, I am really excited that we're focusing on this as well, but I want to bring it back to the health clinic just a touch. And I want to put an additional face onto the health clinic. So we've talked a lot about it, the domestic violence and the elderly abuse, and these are all wonderful reasons why we should also have this immunization and WIC clinic. But there are also the families that aren't in those situations that are utilizing this. These offer low-cost immunizations to our children. People who have 5, 6 children, your $20 immunization charge at your doctor's office is going to be a heck of a lot less at this particular clinic than it is at your family practice. So this is something that we're offering to the entire population. Yes, we are going to have folks that will be able to access not only the criminal, and I'm going to mess it up, the Justice Center concept, but also this is really serving a need of the broader population. This is your neighbors, this is your brother and sisters, and who are on budgets. This is where they can come centrally located without having to travel around the valley to get these services. And hopefully it'll help our kids be healthy, and it'll help our mothers and fathers provide adequate nutrition for the children that are in our community right now, as well as growing in the south and the west side of the valley. So I wanted to put that other face on it as well, because I think that is our core population of this health clinic, is our neighbors. So.
Thank you.
When we first started out here, one of the main goals the city was looking at was clinic access. That was one thing we first began talking about as our coalition, is something that was in need. And then when we meet with individuals in the CRC, we go through their health, we go through their education, we go through all those steps, and every time health is involved, whether it is a domestic violence situation or not, that is always a need that exists. So we see that every day, is that's how do I get.
While we're adding, if you don't mind. Can you tell we're passionate about this? First of all, I have to say, as the Health and Human Services Director, I am thrilled that our Economic Development Director just made the point that I was going to make. And it's perfect, because Salt Lake County is really focusing on building healthy communities. And I know that that is a focus of West Jordan as well. And so I think we have some common ground there, in that we're really looking to help our communities become even healthier, to help our families be healthier. That means job growth, that means educational opportunities, that means healthy families. And that's what having all of these services available in a central point does for West Jordan and the surrounding area. It provides opportunities for families to have access to health education, to immunizations, to nutrition if they need that, to recreational opportunities and other things that help them to be healthy that are also located here, senior services. So all of those things together help our communities to be healthier and to be more prosperous. And so I think that this is what we're offering, and we're offering an opportunity to help level that playing field for some of the lower income members of the community, and to have the same opportunities across the community for all members. So thank you, Christina, for advocating for the things that I talk about all the time, so it's thrilling. But are there questions? You all have been very quiet, and we've been talking a lot, so I'd love to hear if there are.
Just comments? Yes, please. I'd like to hear it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I've been waiting for a good 35 minutes now to chime in. I very, very much appreciate the excitement. My wife and I have talked about it, and there were some ideas that we were bouncing around. A couple things that you haven't hit on is we have a Healthy West Jordan committee that tries to do different things to help encourage the health of the population. Like every once in a while there'll be a 5K, or we'll have activities out in the park behind us all the time. Great opportunity for us to work more closely with the county, and for the county to partner with the city, so we can kind of leverage each other's networks and capabilities to promote the general well-being of the citizens, not just in West Jordan, but the valley as a whole. So very much excited, and I think there's a lot of possible benefits that we haven't even really begun to broach. The only concern I really have is with the parking, where we know we have a potential parking issue on the court side, and then when originally we had earlier conversations, it sounded like there could be a potential that we may be excluded from using any of that parking over there. But based on what Ms. Oliver said, it sounds like the county is more than happy to work with us to make sure that we can both use each other's parking, and I think that alleviates my concern, which leaves me primarily with excitement. So I'll leave it at that.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I just make a suggestion? We've received some really good information from the county that I think would be helpful in council's discussion and decision regarding the parking issue. If we don't have further information from them, or if council doesn't have further questions for them, it would be appropriate, if you wanted, to go into a closed session now and discuss that issue and how we might negotiate that issue. So just an option available to you.
Is that something that we'd like to do so that they have direction, they know exactly where this council? Please.
I just had a quick comment. First of all, thank you to each one of you for traveling here to our community to make this presentation. It kind of speaks to the passion and excitement that you have, that you were able to take time out of your evening to come and present that to us. And so I just want to express my thanks for you all taking that time to come. I think the issue speaks for itself. The better that we can work the better we can work with each other, the better the chance of coming up with a really great and successful project. And I think that's the goal of everybody here. So, thank you.
I would entertain a motion to go into closed session, discuss this for a moment, and come right back out, if that's okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. We'll go to closed session now for a few moments to discuss the parking issue. We'll re-adjourn here.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. We do need to-
Councilmember Hanson? Yes. Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth? Aye. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga? Yes. Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
We will, all members of the council are present, with the exception of Councilmember Nichols and Councilmember Southworth, but he is here, so he'll join us momentarily. Tonight we have the Pledge of Allegiance by Kevin William from Troop 847. Would you please come forward and lead us in the pledge? Am I supposed to read development? We'll do it again.
Will the audience please rise? Please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audience may be seated.
Okay. Thank you for that, Kevin. Tonight we have a presentation. Actually, we have two of them. I'm going to do that after we do the change. I'm going to suspend the rules after this two presentations, and then we'll go back to that, okay? Or somebody will need a motion. We have an award and recognition of plane crash rescuers, and both chiefs are presenting this tonight. Yes, could we?
Yes, Mayor and Council, if you could come down and we want to thank you very much for this opportunity to recognize some of our local heroes, average citizens that stepped up to the plate in very emergency circumstance, risking some of their danger. I'll read through this. First of all, I'd like to introduce the Sedlicek family. We're sitting over here on my left. They are Steve and Kathy, right? Steve and Kathy are here. They are two of the occupants of the plane that crashed. And so it's great to, great to have them here to be able to, in person, see their rescuers, to see who had that impact on their life. So I'm going to turn around this way so I can face the audience. And so as I'm telling this story, the award recipients, as you're here, as I mention your name, if you just come up, please, and stand right over here, and then we'll get pictures and all that kind of stuff here in just a little bit. But let me go through this story if I can keep my eyes dry enough to read it. The Sedlicek family from Boise, Idaho, owned a small propeller-driven airplane which they had flown to West Jordan for a family event. Sunday morning, on August 10th, they planned to fly home. Shortly after takeoff, the plane crashed into the soccer field just south of the airport. The Sedlicek family was in grave danger, and fortunately for them, there happened to be 5 brave individuals who saw the plane crash and did not hesitate to run to their aid. Kirby Crump, Kirby, I know you're here. Kirby Crump and Robert Kelly were stopped at an intersection. Come on up, Kirby. Sergeant Kelly, come on up. Just right here. Were waiting at an intersection at a green light when they saw the plane disappear into the soccer field and knew that it had crashed. With traffic being light that morning and with the urgency of the plane crash, they both ignored the red light, which I forgave them for, and sped, which I also forgave them for, to the soccer complex and drove across the field up to the crash site. Kelly Busenbark, I'm not sure if Kelly's here or not. Kelly Busenbark was a little further away, but also ran to the plane crash. He parked his car and ran to the plane crash. David Lawrence also saw the plane crash. David, come on up. David Lawrence also saw the plane crash, drove to the parking lot northwest of the crash site, and then ran across the soccer field to see what aid he could render. Also, Michael Spohr, I'm not sure if Michael is here. Oh, Michael, come on up. Had barely started walking his dog in the park that day and saw the plane crash. In fact, Robert initially keyed on Michael to find out exactly where the plane had crashed because they had lost sight as they were driving to the scene. Once they got to the plane, everyone could see the flames around the engine compartment in the front of the plane and knew it would not be long before the whole plane was engulfed in flames. Kirby and Robert ran up to the plane on the right side, onto the right wing of the airplane and opened the door and pulled Kathleen out of the front passenger seat. Michael helped Robert pull her safely from the airplane and stayed with her until someone brought a backboard and could give her proper aid. Kirby struggled to get Stephen out of the pilot seat as Robert went back to the airplane and removed the Sedlacek's adult daughter, Anna Looper, out of the rear door. By this time, David was there to help. He drew on his experience as an EMT and assessed Anna's condition, assuring Robert that he would stay with her and take care of her, and Robert went back to help get the pilot. About this time, Kelly also arrived, having followed Kirby and Robert's tire tracks across the field and helped rescue the Sedlaceks out of the plane. By now, the flames were coming over the dashboard inside the plane. Nevertheless, Kirby resolved to do whatever was necessary to get Stephen out. He pulled and pulled and pulled, and each time giving what he thought was his last full measure. Finally, and the flames were intensifying, Robert returned to the burning plane for a third time and saw that Kirby was struggling to get Stephen out. He was not going to let two people be lost in a burning plane. Miraculously, Stephen finally came loose so Kirby and Robert could pull him out of the plane, where David and Kelly were once again waiting to help get them safely away from the burning plane. People were yelling at the men to pull the Sedlaceks further from the plane. However, the rescuers did not move them for fear of furthering their injuries. Instead, they stayed with the Sedlaceks, reassuring them, caring for them until they were both put on backboards and taken to the ambulance or by medical helicopter. As the firefighters were setting up, they again pressed the rescuers into service yet again, to this time helping them pull hoses and get in a position of the field so that they can fight the fire. So with that, we have awards to give to each of them. Life-saving awards for Kelly, David, and Michael, and heroism awards for Kirby and Robert. Now I want to explain, it's not that we don't think the other ones were heroic at all, because all five of these gentlemen are heroic. But two of them, Kirby and Robert, literally went into the plane risking their lives in order to save the lives of the Sedlaceks. So with that, gentlemen, thank you very much for your service. Thank you very much for the opportunity that we have to recognize you as the local heroes that, I mean, we get tagged law enforcement and firefighters and in the military, we get tagged as heroes sometimes, but it's the average day-to-day guy that steps up at an important occasion like this, saves a life, putting his own life in danger, that makes the difference. So thank you very much. We'll give you a chance to shake the council's hands, and then to also to, I can't even say it, go over and meet the people you rescued. Okay. Mayor and Council, again, thank you very much.
True heroes within the community. We really appreciate that. We have a 4B is a presentation of the new police dog, canine dog, Chief Diamond.
Thank you again. This one is not quite so emotional, although it's a happy time and good, not quite so heart-wrenching. I'd like to introduce, we have Bronco here. There he is. This is our newest police canine, Bronco, and his handler, Steve Hutchins. So, Bronco, say hi to the council. We're still working on his obedience training a little bit. He should be finished certifying this week as a drug detection canine. Did that Saturday, so he's certified now. And so he's got to go through his patrol training still. But we look forward to putting him to work and to get him going. Our canines participated 2 weekends ago in the Utah Peace Officers Association canine trials. I thought I had it with me, but I don't have the exact rulings on. Do you have the awards that we received? Or Drew, do you have those off the top of your head? Okay, we won. We placed very well. Let me put it that way. I don't remember exactly what we won, but we placed very well. All of our dogs did very well, especially as new as Bronco is. he did very well in the trials. And so I appreciate them, appreciate the help and effort that you gave. Yeah. I would like to recognize Alexandra Framo. I did it anyway. If you come up here, Alexandra. Alexandra can be challenging at times. She challenges us, and I think that's keeping us honest. I do want to recognize her. She donated $10,000 toward this dog. And so with our appreciation, we'd like to give you this plaque.
Good looking dog. Thank you, Chief. And thanks, Alexandra. We appreciate it. I'm just wondering, has Officer Hutch been bitten by the dog yet, or is he still okay?
Not to my knowledge, he hasn't been bitten yet.
Oh, that's good. Not yet.
It's just a foregone conclusion that a handler is going to get bit by their dog at some point in time. Usually not severely, but occasionally. I mean, the dogs are not, again, they're not pets. They are tools. They're trained to do certain things, and they're trained very well. But occasionally accidents do happen, and the dogs do get excited. They are, after all, just animals. They are very smart animals, very well-trained animals, but they are still animals.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, before we move on with any of the RDA and the council meeting now, I would call for a motion to suspend council rules and move item 9A up in the agenda to this portion right now.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth. A second. I will second that motion. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none? Oh, Councilmember McConaughey.
More of a question as to the motion. I'm assuming there's some people who might be here with the intent to speak during citizen comments, so I'd be curious as to why we'd be moving this prior to citizen comments.
Well, it was my understanding that this was going to be tabled, and I didn't want them to sit all night until we got down past the other public hearing and the other items on the agenda, so that's why I asked for the motion. Other discussion? Let's vote.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hagan?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, now moving to item 9A. This, yes,
Did we just move this one up to discuss it now?
to discuss it now. We are moving to that item.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we are now on item 9A on the agenda, on the packet. This would be discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 14-11, ratification of the preliminary development plan for the Star Station at Gardner Mill and establish a multifamily residential density of 20.29 units per acre for the property located at approximately 7659 South, 1300 West. Tom Burdette. Or, actually, is there a motion would be in order at this point?
I do, Mayor, have a motion. I move that we pull this item to a date uncertain.
To a date uncertain? We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. As we know, last time we discussed this item, we came up with a split vote, 3-3, and we weren't able to make any headway. So it seemed like this item would be moved to tonight to continue with the conversation. However, after going through our council rules and procedures, speaking with our city attorney, speaking with Councilmember Nichols, Councilmember Nichols mentioned that he would like to be present for the conversation. Our council rules do allow for a council member absent from a decision to request reconsideration of that item at their first council meeting back. So it is my understanding from Councilmember Nichols that he intends to bring this back. I know the motion is to table to a date uncertain, but he's expressed initial interest in bringing this back on the next council meeting, October 8th. So having had that conversation with Councilmember Nichols and understanding that this isn't being just thrown out there, rather this is to help prevent some of the confusion, I would speak in support of that motion.
Councilmember Haga.
Point of order. Thanks. A point of order, though, Councilmember Nichols was not a vote, sustaining vote of the initial failure.
Just for saying, if you mind speaking up, we got a fan over here. We can't hear you.
Pull it up closer to you. I'll have to repeat everything.
So if I'm back when it fell in the spring, to bring a reconsideration back, you have to be on the prevailing vote, which was a failure. So I think allowing Councilman Nichols to make that request, he's not by our rules of reconsideration, not authorized to reconsider the item. Just that note.
I believe that the motion is being made here, though, by the council president to move that. So we have a motion and a second. So that's the issue that we're going to vote on at this point in time. Even though Councilmember McConaughey did mention that he would like to be here. So the motion is for a date uncertain to table this tonight. Is that right, Melanie? Mm-hmm. Any other discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
No.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson? Yes. Vote passes 5-1.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the rules have been suspended, so now we will move to the redevelopment agency meeting. And I now call to order the redevelopment agency meeting of September 24th, 2014. And I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of July 30th.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hanson and a second by Councilmember Stoker. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson? Oh, board members, so sorry.
Yes.
Board Member Hanson? Yes. Board Member Haga?
Yes.
Chair Rolfe?
Yes.
Board Member Southworth?
Aye.
Board Member Stoker?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 2B, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 166, authorizing the chair to execute the second amendment to the agreement to develop land between the Redevelopment Agency of West Jordan and Bangerter Station LLC located at 3400 West and 8700 South in the Community Development Project area. Tom Burdette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members of the board. This request is to amend the agreement for development of land. That is an agreement between the redevelopment agency and the development entity of Boulder Ventures and Utah Transit Authority for the Jordan Valley Station. When this development was proposed, it contained some language in the ADL that required them to initiate construction and initiate trigger the tax increment collection by some certain dates. Those dates are not likely to be met at this point, and this request is to change those dates to add an additional year and also allow for changing the interlocal agreements with the taxing entities as necessary to accomplish the same change in dates with those. The agreement for development of land was reviewed by Randy Files, special counsel to the agency. There's a companion agreement that goes with that goes with this, and that's an amendment to the development agreement that's also on the City Council agenda as a consent item. That one changes the same dates with respect to the development agreement, and that one has been reviewed by Robert Thorpe in our attorney's office. We have reviewed those. We find them in compliance with our agency policies and feel that it should be approved and we should move forward with them. Mr. Bill Rothman, representing Boulder Ventures, is in the audience if you have any questions of him. And we would recommend moving approval. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Stoker.
Just one quick question. Tom, we've talked about this several times before, but I know this project triggers a sewer main extension, I believe down Old Bingham Highway. And on top of that, I know that Old Bingham was going to see some surface improvements after that sewer line was done. There's been a number of people interested in seeing that come to fruition as the road continues to deteriorate year after year. So I have to ask the question, what kind of timeline or schedule are we looking at to see that sewer line and those street repairs made?
Yes, we had a discussion with the developer related to the sewer installation. The plan is still to upgrade the sewer line in Old Bingham. Our Public Works Capital Improvement Projects group is getting ready to do some resurfacing of Old Bingham Highway. We think that the sewer line can be coordinated ahead of that resurfacing. We went over a few dates. We went over some methods of resurfacing the roadway. How we would coordinate between the two projects and the two contractors that would fulfill those two services for Boulder Ventures, UTA, and the city. And I think that we expressed to the development entity how important it was to move it forward with that within the next 6 months, 9 month time frame, so that we can continue to move forward with our bidding process in winter and start construction in the springtime. So we had a very good discussion. I think that we'll continue to keep that dialogue going. And I would encourage the development entity that if there's further delays with financing or other red tape challenges, that maybe UTA help with that in some way. I think it's critical that we move forward with repairing that road before it deteriorates further. Wendell has any comment?
Just to let you know, we're actually doing the design now. We plan on starting in the spring. We've let the developer know that if he can't move forward in the spring, we plan on moving forward, and that it would cost him additional funds to come back and do what we wanted with the roadway later on. So he's aware of the additional costs if he can't move forward next spring.
Okay, thank you.
Other discussion? Yes.
I move that we approve resolution number 166.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Stoker and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion? Oh, board members, actually. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Chair Rall,
Yes.
Board Member Haga,
Yes.
Board Member Stoker,
Yes.
Board Member McConaughey,
Aye.
Board Member Hanson, Board Member Southworth.
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the redevelopment agency meeting and reconvene the city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Southwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we will move to item 5A on the city council agenda. City manager, Bryce?
Whoops, I'll turn this on. Some items just to make you aware of. We apologize for our air conditioning that's not tonight. As you know, we've spent a lot of money to improve the condenser and pumps and everything else, and lo and behold, as soon as we flipped the switch to charge the system, we found out that the piping between here and the condensing units out in the parking lot was rusted out and was leaking everywhere, and so we don't have a conduit to get the material cooling back and forth. We are working on a plan to resolve that, but it looks like probably for the rest of this year we'll be working off of the swamp cooler system that is here. So I apologize for that. It's just we're finding out there were more problems in the system than what we realized. The other item that I just want to discuss is, as we are discussing tonight, the contract for a benefits, or I'm sorry, not a benefits, the insurance broker. We will be getting started on the insurance solicitation and things like that. And in the past, we've had a committee that's been made up by one of the council members, staff, members of the fire department and police department agencies. And we just want to know if the council wants to continue having that same makeup, or if you're interested in a different combination of people that will be working with the broker to find the best plan for our employees.
It's my opinion that it should be made up of 3 members of the city council, that committee,
Okay.
and working with staff to bring that forward.
Is that a consensus
Like your other
of the
opinions
councils?
from the council.
Yes, I'd like to have more representation. Last year, I think we had some confusion about what was going on, at least from the council's perspective. So if we have 3 members in dialogue, we might have more information.
And do you as a council want to decide who those representatives are?
I volunteer to be one.
You know, I'm not representing, I'm saying myself, but I think Chad and Councilman McConaughey have a lot of experience in that. I don't want to volunteer him or Chad, but both of them have a lot of experience in that.
Would you volunteer, or should we just should we vote Chad in?
And he's not here, he can't, he's good.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
I would be happy to be volunteered and also volunteer Councilmember Nichols.
Okay, we will work with that group and find your schedule, and this will still be a few months out, but I
Right,
just
we've
want
got plenty
to
of time.
enter into that. The last item that I'd like to just solicit with the council, we in the budget approved, you in the budget approved the administrative assistant for our fleet department. It's funded. We have chosen not to fill that position until we had a chance to see what the demands are of this job. One of the things that we are seeing is that, yes, it would be beneficial to our staff out at the Public Works facility to have another administrative assistant. When one of them's taking a day off or things like that, it leaves one person trying to juggle everything. We also see a need for our Parks Department to have some assistance. Where that's been funded under the fleet, we would like your approval to go forward with having that full-time position filled, with the understanding that they would fill a dual role of supporting Brian Clegg and the fleet facilities, or fleet. And so if there's any discussion or comments where you would like to fill those. And then the other one that I would like to just bring to your attention is, as you're aware, with our changes in our administrative staff here in City Hall, there's a number of items that I'm juggling and trying to keep up with and not feeling that I'm being adequate in those areas. And we've discussed with you the option of making the part-time administrative assistant that was designed to be here in administration a full-time position. We're coming up on about half of the year, wondering if you would be open to us having dialogue with you on changing that position to a full-time position to allow me to have more assistance, recognizing that we would also make that person available to serve you as a council as a whole. So I'm asking for help.
Is anyone opposed to? Yes, Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like a little time to think about the change from the part-time to the full-time, because we know that temporarily, yes, there's quite a bit of work for you while you're interim city manager. I really struggle with the idea of making a permanent change for what we hope is a temporary situation. I would be more in favor of authorizing funds to be expended to get more of a long-term temporary person to help out with that, rather than change from part-time to full-time at this point.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, we have a long-time employee. We don't need to mention her name, but she sits in that office, and she's going to retire pretty soon. So, yeah, how long?
1 year.
So, you know, and she's a wealth of knowledge, you know, so I would urge the council that we look at somebody that can be trained by this individual, I won't use names, and go full-time. Because it's going to be a big job. There's no doubt that that position is going to hurt us when that person leaves. So that would be my thought, is we have somebody that's going to be trained by somebody that's been with us for probably over 20 years. How long is she?
Over 30.
She just had her 29 years in November.
So even though this person will help the council, I think it might be a person under your direction, a good person to train for that position. Thanks, man.
Councilmember Southworth.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I kind of see them as two separate things. I know you're trying to do it the West Jordan way, and we try to be very frugal. But I think we have two different needs. I hear the cry for help and see the cry for help out there, and with Arlene leaving soon, we definitely need to fill that. But on the flip side of that too, this other position we talked about, I think is a very mission for a specific need that I would see would just become convoluted, and it would be difficult to try to do both, end up serving two masters there. I just don't know. I'd have to think about that some more, else I'd be hesitant. You know, maybe we put off one to fill this more immediate need. I would see this as a more immediate need. So I don't know. I just have some hesitancy of trying to have somebody do both.
So, on the administrator at the Public Works, is anyone opposed to going ahead with that job posting?
Just a quick question. I guess I got a little bit confused. We were talking about an administrative assistant for Brian Clegg, the parks director, and for fleet.
Well, it was budgeted as a fleet administrative assistant, and it is programmed in the fleet budget for 100% of an employee. However, we're not convinced that we need one person spending 100% of their time just doing fleet work. What we do recognize is that we had also discussed, but did not budget for, a parks employee, administrative assistant. So what we're proposing is that we have this individual serve as a dual role to help in parks and fleet. We would need to break that budget into two programs.
And I guess, how does that relate to the administration here?
Oh, I'm talking about two different positions. So that's the one for out at the Public Works facility that they would be serving the fleet and Brian Clegg. And then I brought up the second one as we budgeted for a part-time administrative assistant here in this office, and we've had many discussions about the roles of that person. And I'm fully prepared, if you would like, that we can put more information together and put that on the agenda and come back and talk with you so we can try to flesh that out better. So as the mayor indicated, number one, would you be opposed to us starting the application process for the individual out at the Public Works facility? It's funded, it's in the budget. We just had agreed not to fill that until we had determined if there was a need. And I do want to be very clear that while it was funded only for fleet, we would like to have this person share in duties, and we feel that's the best way to maximize that individual. And then if we want to have further discussion on the administrative assistant here in our administration office, I'm fully fine with bringing more back at a future date.
Okay. Councilmember Southworth.
Real quickly, I apologize, I probably added to that confusion. What I was commenting was what takes place here in the administrative office. What you set out with parks, I think it's a good idea, and I'll rely on your good professional judgment and say yes, I don't have a problem with that.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to the first item, the person to help with parks and fleet, I really struggle with somebody being funded out of one bucket but working primarily for another. We see the same thing my first year on council, I really had struggles with the budget because we had somebody funded 100% from Good Landlord program that was only dedicated about 10% to the program. So we didn't see what money was funding what positions. So I would prefer to agendize that one so we can make sure that it's clear what that person is, what the reporting chain is, especially now where we have a director over parks. I believe fleet still falls under Public Works. Is that right?
They're under the Administrative Services Department.
So how would the reporting happen to that person? I'd prefer that we agendize that. And then the second one, additional changing the part-time to full-time, I'd rather not.
Could that be a consent item and you could poll it if you had a question? Just because then we can see it.
If there's enough detail in the staff report and questions are answered in advance, yeah, if there's still questions, then I would pull it from consent.
So, those in favor of allowing staff to go ahead and post the job for administrative assistant at Public Works, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
So we have 4 ayes. Ayes prevailed, right? Okay, so you have your direction on that.
I don't know that we can really vote on that.
I was just going to say that this hasn't been agendized, so I'm not sure that we can make to actually take action. Probably.
It's just I'm just giving the Councilmember McConaughey. We know now that the majority of the council would like to move for a funded position, and we can give direction to staff to go ahead and fill that position now.
So I will restate that by saying it's the consensus of the majority of the council to go forward with advertising for that position. And then we'll bring the other item back for more discussion on the administrative assistant position.
That's good.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Bryce, if you'd go back to the water line breakage.
Oh, yes.
We have Jim Writings here, and this is a big deal. The pipes that were installed were steel pipes, not ductile iron or plastic, and they have deteriorated to the point over the 20 years of the life of this building that they can't be used. There are 2 options. One is move the cooling tower to the front of the building and run a new pipe in from that location, which would be a shorter route. Or there's and that estimate is, correct me if I'm wrong, about $50,000 to do that. Or we have an estimate, again, for, looks like about $47,000 to bore horizontally from the planted area just adjacent to the west of the city hall with a casing that could be, if we had problems anytime in the future, the pipe should be accessible at that point. And put a manhole on, and that looks like it's about $47,000. We don't have it on agendized, but we probably need to go one direction or the other. This is something that needs to be looked at. It doesn't have to be, well, I wish it was working today. Go ahead.
And Mayor, what I would propose is we'll go ahead, we just want you to know what we're facing, some of the ideas that we're working to resolve this issue. We'll put prices together, come back to the council for a change order for that, and have to work out where it would come from in the budget. So I believe we still have time to bring it to a future council date. And the extent of the work, I don't believe is going to, Jim, please pipe in, but I don't think we can get the air conditioning working in time to give us any relief in the building. Do you? It's done in a year. So we'll just bring you that change order at a future date and let you know what those options are. But just realize that because the piping was buried directly in the ground, we don't have an easy way to change it out. So it's going to be a trick, but we're working on ways to handle that.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a comment?
Well, I did. I suppose we're all grateful it's September and not July. But are you talking about 2 casings underground or just one?
One casing with both pipes.
Would we want to, if we dug it out, would we want to put 2? Or does it matter?
Well, they're talking about a 20-inch casing so that, when the casing spacers can hold both pipes, and then actually it would be accessible. But I guess we've got plenty of time to research and see the best route. Since we're going to be baking while it's warm.
I guess we'll just let the council decide if you want to change the dress code for the remainder of the fall. We'll let you decide that.
Yeah, it's already on.
So was that all, Bryce? Yes.
Just a consideration when we're looking at the options, I'd be curious to know what kind of impact the condensing unit would have being closer to the building, whether it's noise or vibrations or anything, whether or not that's going to create unintended negative consequences by moving that closer.
Yes, Jim could. He's came.
Well, I'm not saying answer that now as part of future discussion.
If I could just make a comment about that, because that's one of the concerns I have with moving it out there, is there enough airflow around the unit if it's out in front, and is there any vapors or anything that would be sucked into the building that would be deleterious? What the intent would be is the first thing we would do was we would get a mechanical engineer on board, and we would present to him those options that we've talked about and rely on that mechanical engineer's expertise to look at which of those is the better option. It almost sounds like the cost is going to be about the same whichever way we go. There's benefits to doing it one way or the other. Each one of them have their own benefits, and both of them have the downsides as well. But the first thing we want to do is to be able to make sure that we have, your direction to move ahead to try to get this thing completed, so that come, next May we've got air conditioning in here again. And but again, the first thing we want to do is get on board a mechanical engineer, because we're going to rely on his expertise to look at those options and say which one's going to be the better for the city based on some of the things we've talked about. The fact that we're going to bore over here, or if we're going to set it in there, which is going to be the best option. So I just wanted to make that comment, if that's okay. Did that answer your question?
Thanks, Jim. Jeff?
One item, just wanted to make you aware that Shannon James, the city's risk manager, is leaving the city's employ Thursday, tomorrow will be her last day here. So we just wanted to, if there are no objections, we're going to move forward with posting that position and replacing her as quickly as we can. We appreciate all of Shannon's service the last 7+ years. So,
thanks. David Oka?
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, I have one thing to report tonight. We've been working with Maverick with regard to the northwest corner of 2700 West, 78 South. I'm happy to announce that they've come to an agreement with the current owner for the purchase of that property. Staff has already received preliminary site plan, and we'll be meeting with them Monday. So in my discussions with the representatives of Maverick, if things go right, because they got to pull the tanks and got to get permits and stuff, we should see the building somewhere around February. So those of you who are sick and tired of driving past that, look at that all the time, you'll have some relief here.
That's good news for the entire city. It would be wonderful to have that lot taken.
That's my report.
Thank you, David. Tom Burdett?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The planning staff conducted a tour on Saturday of multifamily developments inside and outside the city in the general west side area. We got off to a late start, but I think it was still a productive tour. Councilmember Haga was on the tour with our planning commission and staff. We saw a number of different densities, different types of developments, different styles, different designs, and hopefully that gave the planning commission and Councilmember Haga a good idea of some of the current development practices with multifamily and what's been successful in out there in the marketplace in our competitor cities. That was established to kind of familiarize the Planning Commission with multifamily developments, and so that they could have a better understanding as the cap and trade code comes forward. We're planning to take that to the Planning Commission on October 7th, and then hopefully have that recommended to the City Council shortly after that. So we've been working, this planning staff's been working carefully with the City Attorney's Office through Robert Thorpe to put that together, and I think we've got a nice draft. Second item, I've got two more. The second item is the planning staff's also busy working on an RFP and consultant selection process for the Redwood Road corridor. We're going as fast as we can. We received a number of qualified proposals from interested design groups. We were looking for a design group that has expertise in urban design, some landscape architecture, and traffic engineering. So I think we'll have a good team no matter who we select out of this group, and we're anxious to get that moving forward. Lastly, with respect to the city center development, we're expecting soon to have an appraisal on the auxiliary services building, school district, and that's a key component of information that's needed before we can start updating the project area plan and the project budget. Also, the developer is working on some fine-tuning of the concept plan and his capital investment pro forma for that same development. So when all of that information is assembled, we will be able to launch the economic analysts on preparing an update to the project area plan and budget and respond back to the school district. The school district has met their target dates out of the memorandum of understanding, and they've given us a priority ranking of the sites, the alternative sites to relocate their auxiliary services building. But the developer is causing our side of that memorandum of understanding to be a little late by maybe a week or two from where we thought we would be with preparing some of the information for that same memorandum of understanding. Just wanted the council to know that. One of the things, one of the key things that we'll be looking at to update is RDA number 6, and look at how we might be able to offer some tax increment financing for infrastructure, land assemblage, And that infrastructure also includes pedestrian overpass across Redwood Road. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but things are moving well. We might be a week or two behind with that memorandum of understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yes, just quickly wanted to give you an ERP update. We are, of course, our go live set date was October 1, which will be 1 week from today. We are actually ahead of schedule, and we'll actually be able to almost go live on Monday rather than Wednesday. So we did have some things go our way today that will head us in that direction, but we should be able to begin using the purchasing module on Monday, and we will be fully live on the financial portion of the new ERP by Wednesday of next week. So we just wanted to give you that update that we are on schedule and we have accomplished the goal that we set out to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Bueno?
Yes, I think at the last meeting I mentioned that we were going to be working at the intersection of 90th and 48th, doing an in-house overlay of that intersection. That work is done. The design of that entire piece of roadway redesign or design for reconstruction is underway, and we'll be bidding that here in the next couple months, ready to begin reconstruction of that roadway from 48th to 53rd early in the spring. The next in-house overlay project that we're doing is 27th West, right next to the tracks. So we're starting on the south side, and we'll do that beginning next Monday, and there'll be one-way traffic. We will not close the road or impact traffic between the hours of during peak hours, but our work will be going on between 9 and 3 for next week. Then the next week after that, we'll start on the north side and get that done. So we just want to let you know that that work was going to be going on.
Thank you. By the way, the intersection on 90th looks wonderful. They did a wonderful job. Chief McCoy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just two items. First, I want to update you. I failed to do it at the last council meeting. You might have saw in the news we had a firefighter paramedic, Zach Kessler, that works for our department, had been deployed in Afghanistan for close to a year. He's back in West Jordan safe, and will return to duty with us around the 1st of October. He's taken a couple of weeks to reunite with his family, so we're glad to have him back safe. He served in a medevac unit over in Afghanistan. The second item is, I mentioned maybe a month ago about the UTA drill we're involved with on October the 12th. It's going to take place in West Jordan. We're using the rail line where it crosses 7800 South, just I believe it's east of Gardner Village there. That drill has been in the works, being planned for a couple of months. It's coming up soon. On the next council meeting, you'll have an item, a request that we close 7800 South on either side of that overpass to allow those involved with the drill to work safely. They'll be working actually on that over where the train tracks go over 78. The closure would be from 1 in the morning till about 4 in the morning on Sunday morning. So we'll have that on for your consideration on October the 8th. And also, again, I invite, and I'll send out another email as it gets closer, but if any of you would like to come and observe during that drill, you're more than welcome to. We'll make accommodations for you and have a safety vest, a reflective vest for you, and you can come and see what's going on. It should be a great drill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Diamond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to remind you that we have a badge pinning. I think you should have had invitations out. If you haven't, we'll get those out. October 1st, that's next Wednesday at 4:30 over in our office, over in the community room. That's for our two newest officers, Tyler Lynn and Eric Taylor. Then we'll also be recognizing some of our support staff that we've hired since our last badge pinning. So you and the public are invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Our city clerk, Melanie Briggs.
I know you don't get to hear from me often enough. Just wanted to give you a heads up because I know you like to plan your calendars ahead of time. I informed all the senior staff today in staff meeting. October will be the last month of the year that we follow the second, and this is also for citizens who attend our council meetings. Our council meetings are the second and the fourth Wednesdays of the month, but because of the holidays during November and December, we have to readjust them So in November, our council meetings, November and December, the council meetings will be the first and the third Wednesdays of the month for both months. So November, it will be November 5th and November 19th. And in December, it will be December 3rd and December 17th. So I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up ahead of time so you kind of plan ahead.
Thank you. Council comments. We'll start tonight on this side. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we have a neighborhood about 70 South 3200 West that has some issues with flooding, and we think there's some relation to stormwater. I was out there Sunday during the storms that we had to see how the neighbors were doing and make sure there were no significant problems, and also talk to the folks. Luckily, there was no significant flooding last Sunday, but in my conversations, folks are still very anxious for an open house that we discussed about a month ago, so they can have a little bit of line of communication with staff. They can understand some of what we've done, some of what still needs to be done to alleviate the problem. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that I intend to, I know we brought it up in I brought it up in remarks about a month ago, and there seemed to be the majority of council that agreed to have an open house, but there was not consensus on date, time, what we plan to accomplish. So based on comments from staff, I plan to agendize that for the meeting for October 8th, and that's more so we could set a date, whether we do it sooner, whether we do it later, wait till we have answers, or prior so that they can be involved in the questioning period. So just a heads up that that'll be coming for the next meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was unable to attend the tour with Ms. Fredette and the rest of the planning commission. Also, Councilman Vega, because I went out to the open house at Boeing for friends and family. It was very interesting. They gave a lot of information on what they are doing out there with the stabilizer that they're going to be building there. There's a lot of booths there. Our fire department was well represented, and it was a very interesting open house. They also said, which is nice. I went to the community councils on Monday, big church closed, and I spoke mostly on municipal bonds. Mine isn't working? Oh. On municipal bonds, the different types of bonds. There was also a lot of discussion on SSAs, and it was very interesting. I will forward those minutes once they are sent to me. And that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Haga.
Yeah, I just want to echo Tom and I think it was 6 of the planning and zoning and myself. We all piled in a city bus. The mayor and I rode in that. I learned some interesting things. How planning and zoning thinks. They think about, where the utilities go, things like that. Pointed out, I wouldn't think those ways. So it was very informative. Thanks. The highlight I want you to know was Denver Donuts. So thanks for stopping there.
Thank you. Councilmember Southworth.
Dunford is always a highlight. A couple items of personal privilege, I guess, to Jeff, if you could pass along gratitude to Shannon for the work that she has done, and wish her success in her future endeavors. To our economic development team, and I'm sorry I was not on the tour, I was out of town, but David, that's great news to hear that corner that has just been almost delightful for so long is going to get a new tenant, and a strong, viable tenant. So that's neat. And lastly, and I think most important, is, and I think the chief and I have the same problem, that our allergies kick up in odd times. I think it's the dirty carpets. When we talk about the, see, I told you, allergies, dirty carpets. The everyday heroes. And tonight was a parade. And it was quite, excuse me, sorry, inspiring to me to see that. Alexandria here, who donated, I would consider it a significant investment into our community, that for a canine that will serve all of the citizens, an everyday hero. Zach Kessler, in a fire department who serves our country and everyone else that sacrifices on our behalf, everyday hero. And then, of course, these heroes that I think is the highest form of duty, when you give love of life and your fellow man, that you're going to really lay your life out there for somebody else. That's inspiring. I'm just grateful for to be reminded of these tonight. And anyway, thank you for that moment of personal privilege. Then I'll take some allergy medicine and we'll be done with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Stoker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo first what Councilmember Southworth said, something that he can say much more eloquently than I can. Second, our Arts Council has done a tremendous job this past season putting on events for us. The theater group just recently wrapped up Steel Magnolias, a play that was performed in our own Pioneer Hall, and did it to an amazing production. The talent that we have within our own community, they received rave reviews for the work that they did. Other members of our Arts Council will be performing across the fall and Christmas season. I encourage everybody that hears or reads of this to look for those events. The symphony, the band, the choir, they all will be performing here in the next couple months. And it is amazing to see the talent that we have from our own residents that gather together on their Saturday mornings or on their Thursday nights to be able to perform for their community. So keep an eye open for those. It's a tremendous opportunity just to appreciate the talents that are shared with us.
Thank you. I just had one item tonight. I received a letter today from a young woman that stated it was a handwritten long letter stating that our victims advocate group had saved her life and the life of her children, and sometimes we don't give them quite the credit as the heroes that they are, but it was it was emotional for me to read that letter, but again, our staff continues to amaze, so I'd just like to state that. Okay, we will now move to the citizens' comments. I have 3 signed up to speak. There is a public hearing later, actually. Those that wish to speak will be allowed time to address us for 3 minutes at this time. I have 3 signed up. Michelle Foote, first one.
Okay, this is going to be shocking, but I actually came to speak in favor of reconsideration of the Gardner Station Development Plan. I was expecting it to be postponed until October 8th. I'm not quite sure what date uncertain means, but I think that still works in our favor. Let me explain kind of where I'm coming from. The way I see it, the plan has come a long way, and I think we're close. And as residents, we want that land developed. We just want it developed properly and correctly. And I think that the current plan is really close. And I'm hoping that by maybe throwing our support towards reconsideration of the plan, that maybe the developers will trust that we're not here to shoot their plan down every single time. There was an article yesterday in the Salt Lake Tribune that really, said that we were just not really happy with anything, that there was nothing that could make us happy. And I guess I just want it on the record that that's not true. We want this plan done right. That's all we want. We want the codes followed, and we want the area to be improved and developed the right way. So maybe we can use this time, since it's date uncertain, or if it's October 8th or 22nd or what's that new date, November 5th, whenever it is, what I would love is to be able to come and say that I am in favor of a motion to approve the plans. I would like the developers to take this time to maybe look at some of the things that we're concerned about and see if we can get from almost there to all the way there. And that's really all we want. We would love to see a wonderful development go in, and I really think we're close.
Thank you. Alexandra Efremo?
Mayor and Council, welcome Bronco to West Jordan City. Anyway, never too late for prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faiths. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we are about to undertake. Thank you. I thank West Jordan for allowing me to, I've been lucky I save every penny. And so the welcoming little, I was a Denver, I am a Denver Bronco fan. Now I really am a West Jordan Bronco fan. But folks, we have 107,000 people in this city. And I went last night to West Jordan board meeting. Hey folks, none of you were there. The mayor of South Jordan City was there, Riverton mayor was there, and one other mayor, I don't know who he was. But you know, we have to think of our children. We have to. I went to the study session last night, and I have to tell you, I spoke up. They're thinking about a $100 million bond. They have money. It's just a lot of people last night said we've got to move ahead with the money that the Jordan School District has in their pocket. I told them I was going to be against any bond issue, even if it was for $1, because of what they did with Jolly. $500,000 they give him as a payout, which to me was obscene. So anyway, they're going to meet again on the second Tuesday of October and the second Thursday, and we have to have somebody be there, please. And once again, I'm 1,000,000% against this Gardner Village thing. I want something to be there too, but 3 different 6-floor buildings will not cut it. The soil will not cut it. Why did the other 2 developers drop their plans? We have to look ahead. We have to do some investigating. But I'm still, I mean, the traffic situation, we have 220 units. That's going to be 700 people there. Please, I'm still against it. But anyway, thank you for the honor of Little Bronco. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Eastman.
Yes, I attended the council meeting about a month ago regarding the tracks, the train that runs behind my house that switches out cars at 4 o'clock in the morning for anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. I was told I would get back to. I haven't heard nothing. I also want to make a complaint. When I purchased my house, there was minimal restrictions that I had to put into my house to be able to build there. I was under the impression that this was a nice neighborhood, a real good area. I look out my back window and I see a storage unit for tracks. There are railroad ties out there. There's cement ties, wood ties, spray painted, save this one. Not only the noise, but it's just the junk. If my yard looked as bad as the area behind my house, I would be fined. Again, I would like something done about the noise, first and foremost. And I would like to hear if there's been any discussion about it, if there's going to be discussion about it. I've attended one meeting. I know there's been other people that's attended. I've been trying to get somebody for 2 years. I'm not going away. I just want to say I'm here, and I'll be back again next month. And I would like some results one way or another. I just don't want to be forgotten.
Thank you. Yes.
Just a quick question. Are we talking about a Trax train, or are we talking about Savage Transportation, whatever their name is?
It is Savage Transportation, or rail, that actually switches the cars out at night.
Okay.
UTA, I understand, owns the tracks, or they lease it from Union Pacific, but I believe that there's wood ties back there from Savage that's stored back there. There's also the cement ties stored back there from tracks. So it would be that the storage is both.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the citizens wishing to address?
Sure, you're not going to get away with a council meeting without hearing from me. Kelvin Green, 7707 Battlefield Cove. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the council. You're probably not going to believe me for postponing the vote tonight. We didn't expect we ought to be here tonight, but we are. And I think the postponement, we've seen some things the last several days that actually give us some encouragement that, as Michelle said, we might be able to actually avoid some costly litigation on either side to actually get a project that we can be proud of. So what we're hoping is that over the course of the next couple of weeks, we can, that just like Michelle, we can be able to come back and report to the council that maybe we're not so quite negative against it, but I have to tell you, I'm glad that 0.1% of the city, 0.1% of the city is powerful enough to stop a development. So if you read the Trib article yesterday, that they attribute 0.1% or whatever it was of the population for that to stop a project. Hey, there's the 1%, but hey, we're the 0.1%. So, but if that 0.1% is the squeaky wheel that we can actually get a project that meets the code, or at least gets close to the code, that then we can make some modifications to the code, and that we can actually get something that will work. I think the citizens of West Jordan, we're all going to be better off than if what happened in Tooele and the city has to pay $20 million in damages. So that's what we're working for. We hope that works, and that's where we're trying to go, so we appreciate the vote.
Thank you. Any other citizens? Please come forward. Please state your name and address.
Kerry Groves, 7702 South Annis Circle. I just want to comment on the proposed station at Gardner Mill as well. Not for the way that it is designed currently. That doesn't mean I'm not against, or I'm not for a development there, because I know it's going to happen. Not against the high density. We know what's going to happen there. I want that to be the project that needs to be for this city. Now, if that means that this project needs to be scrapped for an entire new project, so be it. If this project can be modified to continue to be modified to meet all of the recommendations, all of the codes, all of the city ordinances, and the TSOD and everything else, then so be it. One of the problems I had, though, with this whole situation that has occurred is the way that this has come to this point. I think there were a lot of problems with our city officials not disclosing enough information to the council. I think there were a lot of rules and regulations and possible laws in the city of West Jordan and the Utah state law that were not followed completely. Hence, we end up with a big fiasco and a big mess. I would ask in the future that that doesn't happen, that there is complete disclosure from the city employees, the engineers, all the staff that are supposed to be bringing all that information to the council so that they have the information they need to make a proper vote. I don't think that happened correctly. And And then as a council, I think it is your responsibility to also make sure that that information is given to you. If it's not, then don't make a vote until you have that information that needs to be done, or needs to be considered so that you can make the proper decision. I appreciate your time and your efforts. I'm not against a proper development in that area. I just want it to be done right so we can be proud of it as a city of West Jordan. And that may need some further tweaking, or a lot, or a completely scrap project for a new, whatever that needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
I'm Roy Todd, President of West Jordan Firefighters Local 4624. I'd like to thank the council for watching out for us as firefighters and employees of the City of West Jordan with our pay issues. We've been facing these pay issues for the past 5 years, and I'd like to reiterate that for the past 12 years, West Jordan has had a very high reputation for employing only the best, as well as having an outstanding administration, which I believe has helped West Jordan be one of the top 50 cities in the nation, as it was recognized approximately a week ago. As you know, we are the 4th largest city in the state, and our current administration wants to have a competitive plus in our pay and our benefits for our employees. With that being said, after you as a council gave the go-ahead to move forward with the $550,000 that was allocated to fix our pay issues, we as an employee group have been working diligently to assist in any way that we can. As part of our group, we do have access to personnel that do have financial degrees. We have been running many financial reports and have offered up suggestions to the city as to how a portion of this money could be used to better fix our issues. To no avail, our initial suggestions were denied, and the city decided to implement a step system. We are excited to see the step system being implemented, as you will vote on this later on tonight. I know the department heads are recommending a 13-step plan, and if I may point out that during while the department heads were talking about this and discussing this, we had Chief McElreath and Chief Diamond representing half the city against many other figureheads within our city representing the other half. So it discourages me when they vote on what they're going to do when we have multiple individuals outvoting the majority of the city, where we only have Chief McElreath and Chief Diamond doing that. We asked Bryce if we could implement a promotional policy change, which would include a vertical promotion. As far as I know, that is off the table. That is not included in this. Some of the other issues that we would like to see addressed after this step system is implemented is we would like to see some of our members and employees of the city that are undercompensated, as well as the compression issues that we do know is being faced. So we do, as far as I know, the numbers that I've seen, we do have a little bit more money left over after the step plan is implemented. If you as a council would direct the city to direct them to address these issues of the undercompensated as well as the compressed. The last issue that I would like to bring up is that there is an inequality being dealt with within the city itself. And that inequality is for many years, all of the other departments within the city have had a career ladder where the fire department has not. And this isn't because we haven't tried to implement one, we just haven't been able to do so. We do currently have one ready to present and implement at this time, if we're given the chance. The funding, like I said, the funding is still there, and I would ask you to direct the city to go ahead and do that as well. I'm proud to serve those here in this great city of West Jordan, and I would like to continue to demonstrate why we are one of the top 50 cities in the nation, and not be a follower, not following any of the other cities to the north, to the south, or to the east of us. But let's let them look towards us, and let them follow us, as we are one of the top cities in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? Citizens' comments? Seeing none, we will close the citizens' comments portion and move to the consent calendar. I have had no one ask me in advance. Yes, Councilmember Haga.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to pull C and F. Thanks.
Items C and F. Anyone else?
Item 7E.
7E. Okay, so C, E, and F. If there's no others, a motion would be in order.
I move to approve the remaining consent items.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth. And a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion of the motion? Seeing none, let's vote on that.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, we'll move to item 8A. I would be look for a motion to continue this public hearing item until October 8th.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Stoker
Second?
and a second by Councilmember Southworth. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, thank you very much. Now moving on to item 9B. Discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 14-185 regarding implementation of the step and grade wage structure as recommended by the Wage Evaluation Committee. Bryce.
Mayor and Council, thank you. I'm going to turn the time over here in just a moment to Chief Diamond, who graciously accepted the responsibility of being the chair of this committee that we put together. I will go on record and have already expressed to others my apologies if I have, in my excitement to get this process rolling, overlooked, including individuals that could have and probably should have been involved in this, and just felt that in the at the moment, inviting the directors to come to the table and have this discussion, much like we did with the budget items and the priorities for green lists, I asked the individual department heads to please put aside their personal interests of seeing just their own departments aggrandized, which I know each department head thinks the world of their department, and I admire that admiration and loyalty to their department, but to look at the city as a whole and see if we can find something that does the greatest good for the greatest number of employees. And with that, I recognize that there will be some who are disappointed with some of these proposals, and I want you to know that we still leave you in the driver's seat as to directing us if the proposals that we're bringing to you tonight are not satisfactory. The other thing I want to just point out is that I appreciate how each of these individuals that sat on this committee debated things very vigorously and made points on a number of these items. And as Mr. Todd mentioned, that they had proposed some items. Those items were discussed in this committee and were deliberated at great length to decide if they were sustainable. And the committee determined that some of those options weren't sustainable. We'd be happy to share that information with you if you'd like. And so with my compliments to our staff for their assistance in this, Chief Diamond, we'll turn the time over to you to present.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Anytime you're talking about compensation, it's hard to get everybody to agree on one thing. The goals that we had, if you can turn to the next slide there for me. I'm sorry, I don't have the little clicker thing. I don't know where it went. Go ahead and just put all four of those up for me if you would. In June, basically, these are the four things that the council directed us to go back and try and address with the $550,000 that was allocated. For supervisor, address supervisor subordinate compression, the compression between when the wages were frozen between 2008 2011, reevaluating the career ladder or career enhancement that we have, and then also enhancing the pay structure to better recruit and retain experienced employees. So those are the four mandates, at least as far as I'm aware of and reviewing, is what the council directed us to look at and do. So we met together as a group, the department heads and some other folks in here. One of the things, go ahead, Tom, if you would. One of the things that came up is how to define a wage structure. We wanted to get that base done. Are we going to continue with the wage structure that we have of just defining the minimum, the mid-range, and the maximum range, or if we're going to go to a step and grade type of range? We're proposing tonight to go back to a step and grade range, and I'll get into the reasons behind that. As you see up here in your packets, there's a full plan there. You'll see in each one of the ranges, you'll see three options. One's a 12-step option, one's a 13-step option, one's a 14-step option. In our debates, I'll call them, or discussion that we had in our meeting, we discussed things from 10 years to 15 years and how we put this together, what makes sense, what's sustainable into the future. And the group as a whole came up with these three ranges, I will say, or step programs to fulfill what we are trying to do. Also with this, if you go to the next part there, we currently are at our ranges are 32.2% wide. So from the minimum to the maximum is 32.2%. That's below what the average is in the state, and I believe kind of a nationwide thing, right, John? John, it's a nationwide kind of thing, or is it pretty much state? Western United States was between a 40 and a 45% range. And so what we did was we lowered the bottom end slightly and raised the top end to get us more within that range. And that will help us in the future as well. So the wage or the structure that we have, the step and grade structure that we have right now, or that we are proposing, incorporates that widening of those ranges from 32.2% to about between 42 and 43%, depending on which step plan you take, whether it's the 12, 13, or 14. The ranges look, if you'll go to the next one, the ranges look like this. If you overlap all the ranges, now on the left are the range numbers. Because there's so many, it didn't put each range number, but they're in there. That's how from our bottom range 37 to the top range 90, it includes, that's the overlap, and that's what you can kind of see there. Where the light blue, the left-hand side of the light blue is the minimum, where the colors transition is the median or mid-range, and then where the dark ends is the maximum. So that's kind of the overlap, so you can see that it's a progression, and of course, when you have higher salaries, the reason that looks wider is because the percentage is the same. It just looks wider because the dollar amounts are different, because those are in dollar amounts up there. Again, this particular one is the 13-step model. It looks slightly different for the other ones, but you pretty much get the idea there. The benefits, Tom, if you'll move to that. The benefits, number one, it's a stability in the pay structure so that employees can plan for the future. Right now, our current pay structure, and I have an employee that just gave me his resignation letter yesterday, a police officer who is leaving because he can't tell what he's going to make in the future. He doesn't know. And that's, I didn't get that directly from him, I got that from a supervisor, but that's the reasoning behind why he's leaving. This plan helps that. Helps so that the officers can plan and look at the future and decide, okay, how much can I make? Is it more beneficial for me to go with Department A or Department B? Whether they go to West Valley, Sandy, whoever they want to go to, or out of state, wherever, as opposed to staying with West Jordan. Conversely, it also helps with somebody, and I'm speaking in police terms, this is department or citywide, the same argument goes for any position. If somebody's coming in and being recruited by the city, they can't know how to plan into the future. I don't know what my pay is going to be in 5 years, so I don't know whether I want to stay with that city or not, or if I even want to apply. So that's some of that. It's easy to manage. It's fairly easy and straightforward to manage and put forward, and it brings us closer in line, this plan of going from 32 roughly percent to 43%, brings us more in line with that competitive plus scale that we previously discussed, you previously discussed as a council and wanted. That came in May of 2013 during the strategic compensation plan, and I know some of you weren't here at that point in time, but it was discussed that we wanted the city to have a competitive plus advantage of moving forward. That was reaffirmed in the last January in the strategic planning committee when all of you were here. So we want to try and maintain that. So that's some of the benefits that are here for a step and grade. And there are obvious cons to it as well. Kind of the commitment to pay those wages and have those is probably the biggest single one into the future. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was the cost of this plan. Now we're proposing, there's 3 step plans that we presented to you. We're proposing the middle of those, which is the 13-step plan. As we met together, there were some people that on the committee that thought less was better, but as we met together, we kind of came to a consensus or agreement that was going to be sustainable into the future, that we could use. And it's about 3% per step. In between each step is what that calculates out to. What that means for us right now in this year's budget is that we would spend about $229,000. That's an average increase of 27 cents per person. What happens is we take their current wage and we bump them up to the next closest step, whatever that step is. So unfortunately, if you are 1 penny away from the next step, you only get a penny raise. If you are 45 cents away from the next step, you get that 45-cent raise. So it just depends on where you are between those steps is what what step or how much you'll actually get. But it's an average of about 27 cents per hour. 27 cents per hour, not the year, per hour. Okay? We also, in this plan, want to address as many of those other concerns that we had. The first one was the compensation between subordinates and supervisors. How do we compensate supervisors? So if you'll do that next, go ahead and hit the next one here. We have 2 different plans that we're proposing. One is a 2-year step plan from the time that the person is promoted, and the other one's a 1-year plan. So the 2-year plan, first the 1-year plan, they immediately get promoted, and they will go to the closest, they will immediately go to the range that's above the highest paid subordinate at a minimum of 5%. In a 2-year plan, for year 1, which is what we're proposing up here, they would go to the higher of a 5% or to the bottom of the pay range. Then in their second year, After they complete their first year, that second year, they would go to that next full step above any subordinate. So that gives some credence to the time that, okay, I'm learning how to be a supervisor in this job, so I'm going to make about somewhat below maybe some of my counterparts currently that are making more than me right now, but eventually I will make more than they will in the short term. So that's one of the reasons, and we're recommending that 2-year step plan instead of the 1-year plan. Again, it's a little bit more sustainable. It still rewards that person who is promoted for their skills and abilities, the responsibilities that they have as they move forward. Okay. Go ahead.
Could I interject something? And what we're proposing with this one is that we have employees who are supervisors that have been working for 2 or more years. I jokingly use the word, let them get credit for time served. And so those employees, if you approve this, would be moved to the second year of the supervisor. I think we only had one employee that hadn't gotten their 2 years in. So just so you know, the way this was anticipated, if you choose to approve it, most of those supervisors would be getting paid more than any subordinate.
There are currently 12 supervisors who are paid less than their subordinates. I believe all but one of those have more than the 1 year.
Correct.
Right. And so so the ultimate cost in here is just shy of $300,000, $294,000-ish, I believe. The remainder of that we want to use and keep on hand as we address those other, mainly 2 issues, but potentially the third. What we think this addresses is that one supervisor subordinate issue. This addresses. It gives us a base to work from to move forward with everything else, the step and grade plan. And it does give us a little bit of that edge to keep that experience or attract that experienced person into the city where they can start planning for their future, those kinds of things, to retain those employees that we have. So it does a little bit of that. The things that we're really not addressing in this is that compression for the 2008 to 2011 hirees, and also for the removal of the caps for the career enhancement, or looking at that career enhancement, career ladder to move forward. What we need to do, because those are a little bit more complex issues, how do you define that compression issue is very important, and it's a little bit more complex. And do we have, like the fire department, come in and present something that's not here now for a career ladder type thing to move forward? Or do we need to dust off and refresh, to borrow some terms from Bryce, to the career ladder and make sure that it's what we need it to be, and then implement it? I think we can do those things, but we wanted to get something to the employees as quickly as possible so that they could see that we actually are moving forward. That the council is, yes, you said it's important for us to move forward, so we're trying to get this. It's not exactly the plan that I had proposed earlier in there, but it is a step in the right direction. And I think that's what really we need to do, is to make that step in the right direction just as quickly as we possibly can. So with that, are there any questions that I can answer, or anything I did not explain that I can help everybody understand?
Councilmember Stover.
Hey, Chief. Thank you for the presentation. It was great. I support the idea of the supervisor subordinate plan. I think it was well thought out. I do have a couple questions regarding the steps. I know that as a council we talked before about making sure that we're rewarding employees that go above and beyond and get additional certifications, or doing stuff to better become more valuable employees than what their pay may be. And I'm wondering if we look at the 13-step plan, is that being considered in the step, or are the steps just automatic, or I guess what qualifies a person to move from step to step?
Number one, it's their time and grade, their year anniversary, the time that they've actually put in, but it's also meeting the criteria to have a satisfactory evaluation. So if you get a below standard evaluation, you would not be eligible for that year's raise. Now, we have in the past, when you become eligible or when you bring yourself up to standard, give them that raise at that point in time. But so we still have that, I'll call it that merit portion of this, that you still have to be performing at a standard or above level. To address the issues of those employees that are going above and beyond in achieving extra certifications and those kinds of things, in the police department, I know in what the fire department's proposal is for the career ladder and for some of the other career ladders, that's where that comes into play. So to advance, for example, from an officer 1 to an officer 2, it is that time and grade education, not law enforcement education, but public type education or secondary education, and then also the extra skills and abilities, the courses that you take, the specialties that you've been able to do. We have a set criteria for those to make it from an officer 1 to an officer 2, officer 2 to an officer 3, and then from a sergeant 1 to a sergeant 2. And the civilian side of those things, we have similar criteria, but you have to meet this criteria to make that. So that's kind of where that's addressed, not necessarily in the steps themselves.
And if I could interject also, Chief, you nailed it. I would just like to explain, I envision that as we talk about these career ladders, that we would expand the opportunities, because we have a lot of people that, there's not certifications to go out and get for things and stuff, but, if somebody wants to get a degree, that can be a benefit in any career that you may be in. And so I want to find some of these general type things, foreign language skills, things of that nature, that if they demonstrate those things, we can say, regardless of whether you have other career ladder provisions like Officer 1, 2, and 3, that we give everybody the breadth in their job to excel in these skills or knowledge, and when they accomplish those, they are paid for those things. And so that's where we want to spend a little more time digging into what those are and include more people in that conversation of what that is.
And with that, and I'll give you an example from my past life. In Sacramento, there were certain incentives given for certain certificates pay. So you had your basic pay scale, you were in your pay range, and then if you had this certificate, you got X% of your pay in addition to your pay. If you had a bachelor's degree, you had an extra 5 or 10%. And so that kind of goes right along with what Bryce is saying, that we can implement some of those kinds of things. But we really, at this point in time, we wanted to look at those a little bit more carefully as a committee to make sure we were doing the right thing and moving those things forward. So it was going to take a little bit more time. But we still want this other part to go forward as quickly as possible so that the employees can see that we're trying to make things go forward, if that makes sense.
Councilmember Southworth.
Chief, along those same lines, I think how to ask this. So is there room within there beyond I received a certification or I have a degree or what have you? If I am just an everyday get out and get the job done, work my tail end off, can I be rewarded within this system?
Without those certifications and things, or
Well, it sounds like I know we have to do this in government, but here's the check marks. You got a certification. Oh, you're qualified. But what if it's not that I receive some certification, but just every day I go above and beyond in my everyday duty, and I work my tail end off, and I'm not slacking ever. Does that give? Are there opportunities to reward that type of behavior and effort?
we really have not discussed that or built this into this particular plan. That is certainly if the council wants us to do something like that, because it is kind of a policy change.
Sure.
We certainly can look at that and implement something to where maybe they get an extra step that year, or they get a bonus at the end of the year, or something to that effect that we can do with that. It's a little difficult. I will tell you that when, not this last year, but the year before, we were given so much percentage to raise people's wages as a department head, and it became very difficult to differentiate where do I make that cutoff? And we were using, and maybe it's not the best tool, but we're using the evaluation. So if 4 is the highest you can get on your evaluation, is that cutoff at a 3.3? Is it at a 3? When 2 is standard, where is that cutoff? And how fair is that to somebody like my department, where I've got 140 employees and 20-some supervisors who are writing evaluations, all slightly different? How do I make that exactly fair for everybody? That's very difficult to do. So we didn't build that into this right now. But we certainly can look at it.
Okay, so I guess conversely too, on the opposite end, you have the time aspect of the grade. If I am the employee who is the exact opposite, I don't lift a finger, but I've done my time, how do I advance here? And do I advance? Is there room for me to advance just based on my time spent?
Only if you're performing at an adequate level. If you're out there doing your job, maybe you're not excelling, you're not early for everything, but you're there, you're the steady Joe just doing the job. You're not bad, but you're just doing the job. Yes, you will progress because you're doing the job. You're showing that you're adequate in doing the job, and you'll progress with the time and steps. However, if you're at a point where you're not doing those things, I had one employee that wasn't meeting muster. And so that employee got below a 2. That employee did not get the raise last year until we put him on a work plan. We helped that employee to succeed, gave him the training. We didn't want to lose the investment that we had there. And that employee stepped up to the plate and has made themselves a valuable employee and got above, actually, in that new evaluation, got above a 2. And so at that point, then we gave him the compensation there. So there's that. If you're not performing well, there's still that incentive to perform well because or at least adequately, because that can be withheld from you.
So, and in that, what the example you just gave, specifically to the police department, is built into what we're being proposed?
Yes, that will happen in here. You wouldn't advance to that next step if you're below that 2.
Okay.
But if you are at that 2, you would get that next step if you were eligible for it.
Okay, thank you.
And that's for all employees across the entire city. They have to meet that minimum 2 out of 4 to show that they're just, like the chief said, the average Joe that's just willing to come to work and do their job to the expectations. They're not going to go out and do anything extraordinary. They would just move through each step.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Question, and then I'll save my other comments for a little bit later. But when I'm looking at the percentages, I'm not sure if there's a slide that shows an example of a couple of the ranges. I know it's on page 5.
Previous slide here. Nope, previous the other way. One more. Right
Okay.
there.
Yeah, perfect. So as I'm looking at this, range 37, step percent of 3.25%, is that 3.25% just set every year like clockwork?
Yes.
So is there any accommodation in the system for economic factors? And specifically, if we go through another recession or something like that, and if we're in a recession, we see a decline in revenue, if we see layoffs, something like that, would we be in a situation where we're still giving everybody 3.25% automatically every year?
That's the way this plan is set, but that policy of freezing it, I mean, we had a step plan in process in 2000 or in place in 2008 when the city council said it's too much, we can't make it, we're going to freeze the wages right now. City council still has that ability to do that, and still do that. Can you change the steps in there? That percentage, you can. However, what that does is changes the width of the range. So if you want to maintain the width of the range at, say, 42%, I think, for the 12-step program, that doesn't sound quite right because it's not really that kind of a 12-step program. 13-step program, that 3% per year, that's still about 43% that we need to maintain. Again, that keeps us in that competitive plus advantage to where we're at that leading edge. Because during the compensation study, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but during the compensation study, we found that our starting wages were very competitive, but our top-end wages were not quite as competitive.
And what the chief is, and to answer your question, the goal would be to continue these steps, to set that foundation and give employees an idea of what they could receive moving forward. But if there were another recession or other economic reasons that made this unfeasible, we could freeze the steps and maybe do, if there was less than, say, 3% to give to employees, there was 1% that year, we could do that in a one-time bonus type thing where it wouldn't throw everyone off the steps again and cause us to have to get back on at a later date. But you could still compensate employees if you wanted to at a lesser amount than the step. Obviously, we wouldn't want to go into it planning on doing that, but we could do that. Council could do that if it became necessary.
Thank you. On the opposite side of that, I'm a little bit more of a optimist, I hope. If we are having the revenue that we need and we want to give an addition to the ranges to compensate for the consumer price index, a COLA, whatever you want to call it, if we wanted to do that, we can do that and just range wage or move the steps up. Or if we didn't want to do that, it could be, again, like John said, it could be in a bonus type thing.
Thank you. Other questions? Thanks, very good.
Thank you.
I would just like to make a comment before we, it's my opinion that the staff and the committee worked very well and very hard and diligently to try and do this. I think they were just a bit conservative on their final numbers. I think that the 12-step plan would be the right plan to pick, and obviously the one-year plan, I think, makes it better for us to retain employees. On the even adding those two together, we're still going to be much less than the money that was approved in the budget to do the changes. In many of our departments, we're finding that we're not able to retain employees at the wage they're currently making, and I would like to see us be a little more aggressive than the committee brought forward. And also, I hope that we can direct the same committee to move on a career ladder system, immediately start working on that. I know that's a lot larger. I'm in favor of doing something now so the employees know that we're moving on it, but there's still funding available, and I'd like to see a career ladder, a comprehensive career ladder that works for everyone so that they can see their entire career here at Westwood. Yes, Bryce?
And Mayor, Council, I don't know how much more debate you want to have, if you're going to approve this or not, but if I could just plant the seed, because of where we're at in the ERP process, if the council's inclined to approve one of these steps tonight, if you would make it effective for this pay period, that would allow the staff to only do the data entry once, rather than if we change it sometime in the future, they would have to literally go back for every employee and change every amount. So there's a window of opportunity here that can help our folks who are doing all the data entry. I'll just add that.
So if a motion is made, it would have to include to make it during this current pay period so that we can do it once and not have to redo it. Everyone understands that? Okay, motion would be in order, or further discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just want to make one point. If you do the 12-step plan, this fiscal year it will cost us about $440,000. And if you put in the one-time or the one-year promotion plan, that will be about $91,000. That will use up almost that entire $550,000 that we won't have any money left of that. to address any of the compression or caps, or lifting the career caps, career ladder caps this year.
Doesn't it leave about $60,000 to address that?
The career cap,
Yeah, the compression issues. How much did you add up? I missed 400 plus 550,000, right, total? That we
yeah, right. And we have, and that it would be about $530,000, slightly over $530,000 that we would be using just in those two things. And we wouldn't have sufficient money left over to do those other things. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. For police to take care of the compression issues, the way we defined it 2 years ago was, I think, about $38,000, and to take care of the caps on the for the police department on the career ladder was about $117,000 if everyone that was eligible by time applied for it. Now, that's not necessarily the case that they would. It's probably less than 50% of that, so probably about another $60,000 required for that.
Okay,
but that's just for police.
So I could make sure that I understand, just me. The 3 months that it's taken us to implement this from the time that we went, that's been taken into account from the time that we put this money in the budget. That's already added into that accounting.
Yes,
Okay.
that has been taken into account.
Okay, so I had that. Yes, Councilmember Stoker.
Just some thoughts that I'm having. I like the plan, and I appreciate all the time and effort that's gone into putting it in. I am a little concerned about creating a compensation plan that's 12 to 14 years out in the future when we don't even know what our sales tax revenue is in 60 days. We don't know how much money we're going to have next year as a city, but we've created a compensation plan that's going to give pay raises of 3% as long as employees are satisfactorily performing their jobs. It worries me a little bit that there's no connection with this to what the market is doing, whether for good or for bad. If next year things just start going great and wages go up 5% per year, I mean, we've already set this plan in play that's set in stone for either 12, 13, or 14 years. Or if for some reason we hit another recession where we have to look at granting an exception to the plan. It just worries me that there is no relationship between this and what the market is doing. I know that when we discussed the compensation before, we looked at doing a competitive plus with the idea that every couple of years we'd go and reevaluate those to make sure that we're staying competitive plus with the market. I'm worried that this kind of takes us away from that a little bit. And while it's not 3% automatic pay raise, it kind of is a 3% automatic pay raise as long as you're getting a 2 in your performance evaluation. And it kind of worries me that we've planned that out so far into the future that it's hard to. I mean, we're committing not only next council, but council after council after council on this. It's just some of my concerns.
Councilmember Southworth?
I think McConaughey was.
Oh, good.
Okay, all right. Must have back cleanup, I guess. I hear what Justin is saying there. I have a little bit of a different take. I don't mind sending this out 12, 13, 14 years, whatever we do. In fact, well, actually, personally, I think the time, respect the time that was put into this. I agree with what they've brought back. And see it as a compromise. I would be willing to accept it as presented. My concern, I do have some concerns about the merit-based. I'm a big proponent of that. But what I heard here was that if you are performing your job as you are asked to do, that's what you're asked to do. And, I am not a proponent of time served gets you a raise. Absolutely not. But if you're doing what you're asked to do, I think you deserve to be compensated for that, and I really don't have a big problem with that. What I do like to see, though, is those who go above and beyond to be rewarded for that. That's what drives all of us. Let's just break it down and be honest. That's what drives us. And we should have those opportunities. And so I hope that we can look for ways to build that into. The answer what was tonight was we could look for that. And that would be my hope and my push, is that we find ways to build greater incentives for those who take it upon themselves to achieve more, to do more, to be more. But tonight I'm willing to go with this as proposed. And I guess to say it's true, we don't know what will happen in the future, but I think one of the points here that we give people something to look for and to bank on, to plan. I like to plan in my life, and we all do, and I think we owe that to the folks that we employ here. We always have the opportunity to change things in the future as we go, based on the circumstances, as we've seen. It was not fun, that was not pleasant, but as we went through a recession, we had to do a few things that none of us would want to do, and it's not that that's not removed from us in the future. And the converse is also true, that if times are good and we feel like we have the ability to even go in the opposite direction, we have that ability as well. So I guess the point being that I'd look for ways to increase the merit portion of this, and I'm prepared to support it as presented this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a little bit different take. I really struggle with this, especially given the conversations we've had for the last 2.5 years regarding compensation. Originally, the prior council, when we took up the issue of compensation, we wanted to try and get away from COLA. We wanted to try and get away from the step system, because that's kind of where we got into a bad position, because we had set employees' expectations that after 5 years your pay will be here. Well, when the market didn't accommodate, now we have a number of frustrated employees where their plans were met, and now they feel like promises were made by sharing this plan. This is where you will be. Well, when that didn't happen, now they're frustrated and looking elsewhere, and it makes sense. So I worry that this might be setting improper expectations, especially where there's no direct tie to market factors. And coming out of a recession, depression, whatever you want to call it, economic trouble so recently, I have a real hard time going back to something so similar to where we were before. However, that said, when you look at this and some of the pay ranges some of the pay rates on the lower end of the ranges, in some respects, I think this might actually make sense. When you look at an hourly position, especially for somebody new in their career starting off, it makes sense to help them move along. Somebody's relatively new, they're learning quite a bit, relatively fast. It makes sense to have some sort of stability there and some obvious incentive to kind of inspire continued performance. In my mind, I think I'd almost like to see this broken out so we have this for this for hourly employees, but something different for salary. If you look at the top end of the range, if you have somebody who's paid $90,000 a year who just shows up, does their job, does the minimum, punches the clock, whatever's needed just to get that rating of 2, and then we give them an automatic 3% or 3.25% raise every year, I really, really struggle with that. The other thing is going to the letter that we received from from IAFF, from the Firefighters Union. There are groups on different retirement schedules within the city, and it might make sense to have 2 different schedules. I think it almost makes sense to break out public safety from the rest, because it is a very different pay structure. The other thought that I had is, as we're looking at this, I know the last council we talked about wanting to get away from a COLA and just kind of an automatic, here you go. But the chief's arguments about wanting some sort of planability make sense. I almost think it would be simpler, instead of trying to implement all these different steps, if we were to just go to a COLA system and say, here's the cost of living adjustment each year, regardless of qualifications, whatnot, and here you go. This is to cover the economic change, and then have a separate component for further adjustment. And if somebody sees all their people are doing fantastic, great, maybe that's an extra 1 or 2% on top of the COLA. If there are some people that are outstanding, maybe you do 1% across the board, but then you do 3 or 4% for those exceptional contributors. I think that might give department heads a little more flexibility and not leave us in the same position where we could be vulnerable should the economy go south again at some point in the future. It's that automatic every year that I really struggle with, because I think it's setting us up for the exact same scenario again, where if things do go south, we take another 4 or 5 years to fix things for employees. The last couple thoughts I'd share are, number one, I'm happy that we've made some quick strides to try and take action on this. I'm very happy with that, and I really want to make sure that we do the right thing for the employees, because again, going back to just what I've seen on my own street, the stormwater folks that are so quick to respond, the wastewater folks that are quietly doing their job, fire, police that are constantly out there. I know we have dedicated employees, and they deserve to be properly compensated for all that they do. So I'm happy that we directed staff to quickly jump into this. In retrospect, I wonder if we may have made a mistake by not having sufficient council representation in those conversations when we directed the department heads to bring together a plan. And that said, that's kind of the bulk of what was on my mind. I'm really not sure where to go from here. I really struggled with that fixed rate. I don't like the idea of a COLA, but I think that might be easier to maintain. And I'd still like to do something as quick as possible to compensate the employees and let them know, like Chief Diamond said, we are working to take action. I don't know that I'm ready to take action tonight because this is significant. It affects people's their livelihood. People have made a decision to dedicate their career to the city. I had a couple thoughts going on as the chief mentioned. People like the ability to plan. Where am I going to be pay-wise 5-10 years down the road? And in my mind, I'm kind of thinking, well, I'd like that ability, but I don't have it. Well, conversely, what happens if I don't see the pay increases I'm expecting to see? I jump ship and I go to another company. And you don't see that mentality here with the city. You see people who make a lifelong decision to dedicate their career to the city. And it is different from the public sector, and I want to be respectful of that. And because of that, I'm very, very hesitant to accept this plan as presented.
Okay, I want to just state a couple of facts, and then I'll look for a motion. Oh, sorry, I missed you. I'm sorry. Councilmember Hager.
So, new in the council, but being out there in the real world, I know we all struggled over the last few years, and I saw the employees suffer like we all did. But looking at the way our city's growing, and it is, and today we have a surplus, I think we send a signal to our employees. I know we're just rewarding a certain section now, but my vote. I'm not supposed to tell you how we go until we get the motion, but the 12-step plan, and because we budgeted for it already, it's in our budget, and then the 1-year plan. And this will send a signal not only to our employees in this department, but to others that we can, and I have to applaud you, Chief. I love spreadsheets, very easy for me to read. So I'm for the max because we budgeted it. We budgeted it and we have the money, and I think it's sustainable. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, before we look for a motion, I had one more statement. I want to be clear that I believe that COLA should be given every year, and it should be tied to the CPIU. Otherwise, our employees are losing money because that's the inflation rate in Utah at any given year. And I believe that aside from this wage structure, I believe that should automatically be implemented, and I will be pushing for that to happen immediately, because otherwise, for the 5 years these employees were frozen, inflation still went up, sometimes at a very minor rate. In the last 2 or 3 years, it went up at a significant amount. They actually lost money to keep up with inflation. As food prices rose, gasoline and housing have been the factors. And so That's a whole different discussion for a different night. I don't want to get into that tonight, but I believe it should be tied to the CPIU, and I will fight for that from day one. And I think it's irresponsible for us in a, we had a $2 million surplus, even though the cap went from 18% to 25%, and then we had a $6 million surplus. And if I'm right, we're going to have another $2 million this year to look at what happened in the past. I think we need to be looking forward, not back. And if something catastrophic happens in the future, our employees will understand that things have to be frozen again. They understood 5 years ago when I was on the city council. They'll understand it again in the future when the whole entire nation is under a crisis. But I'll make one final statement. If you don't do this right now, look for a mass exodus in our city. I'll look for a motion. No other comments, please, on this. Motion, please. Councilmember Southworth was first.
Thank you, Mayor. Considering the information presented, the opinions expressed, and the fun we're having, I would move that we adopt Resolution 14-185 regarding implementation of the step and grade wage structure as recommended by the Wage Evaluation Committee, and move also that it be implemented in the current pay period.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth. I will second for discussion, and then I'll allow the city manager to speak.
We do need just a little more definition in this. As you have seen, we have 3 different proposals for amounts, and some have voiced opinions of different amounts, and then the 1 or 2 year program on the...
Yeah, I believe it was recommended the 13-year is what the committee came up with. The recommendations from the committee, which I believe was a 13-year.
Okay, so the recommendation...
13 and 2.
And 13-2
years.
13-2 immediately implemented.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and myself as the second. Discussion to the motion.
I think
Councilmember
anything, thanks, Mayor. Anything tonight is going to be good. I'm still a proponent of the 12-year, 1 year. So I oppose this motion, not because I don't want to give you this money. I think there's more that we have in our budget that you deserve. So I oppose to the 13-year. And did you propose a 2-year?
Yeah, 2 year, 13 step. And
Again, I'd like to see 12-year and 1 year plan.
Councilmember Stoker.
I'm going to oppose the motion, not because I don't think that we need to do a plan. I think we need to tweak a few things in here to make it a little bit more sustainable. The mayor brought up a good issue. What about COLA? Do we add COLA on top of a 3%? What does that look like from year to year? And so I think there's a few issues that we need to look at, how that works with career ladders. I'm just not comfortable to move ahead with this plan at the time.
Okay, seeing no other comments? Wait. Councilmember McConnell, you didn't push your button.
For Councilmember Southworth first.
Oh.
I'll go be cleaned up again. I would just say, I think my favorite phrase of the week is I'm not going to sacrifice the good for the pursuit of the perfect. And that's kind of how I look at this. We all have, it's like herding cats trying to figure out this sort of thing. And everybody has a little bit different perspective. But I think we're in a good position. There's some good points that are brought up. The inflation issue, we've actually had negative inflation if you go back and look at it in the years of 2009, 2010, 11, even 12. Really low, almost relatively low inflation. It's picked up recently. I don't know how. With the amount of money we borrow, we don't get the economics. Pull out the economics degree, right? We'll talk about that for a while. We're not going to do that. But I'm not going to sacrifice the good for the pursuit of the perfect at this point. I think this gets us, it moves us forward, and then we have some time to make our tweaks as we move forward. And that's really where my motion is coming from tonight. And I don't blame anybody if you don't agree with that or what have you, but that's where I'm coming from.
Now, Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to have to oppose the motion. I hate to be placed in a position where it's presented that a vote against this is a vote against the employees. It's positioned in such a way that, well, if you're voting against this, you're encouraging a mass exodus. I certainly disagree with that statement, and I don't see this as giving up something good in hopes of something perfect. I don't think this hits the bars of good. I don't think that this does much. I think this puts us back in the same position that we were and sets us up for failure again. I think this is problematic, and maybe part of it's because my expectations were not met during the process. When we started the conversations 2 years ago, there were a number of meetings. I was able to be extensively involved with the conversation, and I knew at least my opinions and my concerns were heard. This time around, we had a council meeting where we directed staff to run with it, and now we're just taking the first thing that's coming back. We're not, I don't even know how to clearly articulate my thoughts, but there are a number of concerns I have that aren't here. I could support this if it was implemented to start with for the folks who are hourly. I really think that's where the bulk of our problem is. That's where the bulk of our employees are. I would be happy to see us take some sort of action with that. Conversely, rather than going along with this plan, I would be happy to see us make some sort of move tonight to go to COLA, even though that's something I don't see as the perfect situation. I would see moving to a COLA as compromising on something good rather than waiting for something perfect. I think this is problematic. I think we're setting up employees for frustration again should the market go south. I agree with the idea of looking forward. However, if we look back to history, that's probably what people were thinking in 2005, 6, and 7, right before things went south. I can't in good conscience support this, even though I wish there was a way that I could, and I could send a message to the employees that I do value their contributions. I do want to make sure that we take care of them. I think we could direct staff to come back with something in 2 weeks that would answer some of the concerns that I have. And we could still move fast. But I can't in good conscience support this, so I will have to speak against the motion.
Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Stoker?
No.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Vote fails 3-3.
Okay, did you want to make a motion to?
Yes, Mayor, I'd move that we take a short 5-minute recess.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, business item 9C, discussion and possible action regarding resolution 14-186, authorizing the reallocation of the open space funds balance from 90th South pedestrian tunnel project. Linda Whitby.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2005, the $4 million bond was passed by the residents of the city for purchase of our parks, trails, and open space in the city. The open space bond provided for various projects that are listed in the staff report. On May 9th of 2012, the City Council approved the allocation of the remaining funds after those projects were built, which amounted to approximately $383,000. This item this evening is to request additional direction from you regarding the amount that's still left over. We ended up with some additional funding that we had, and so we want to receive a direction from the council as to which of the two options that you would like us to follow. Dave Murphy can go through those two options with you.
Essentially, Mayor and Council, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. The two options that you have in your packet is one where the open space funds are completely used up, and if that occurs under option 2, then there is monies available to return to the roads capital account under the telecom funds. Under the other option, option 1, you would have open space funds that would remain available because you would be using up road monies from road capital that were transferred into this account to handle the tunnel project. So those are the two options ahead of you. The reason staff is recommending option 2 is because we've been carrying these open space bond monies for a very, very long time, and we should have basically consumed them by this point in time. And you would have to get into all the arguments from finance about why you should have used them up by now, but there are many, many reasons to do that. So those are the options that we presented for you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Southwood.
Will you reiterate one more time the option that you are proposing or supporting?
Staff is recommending option 2.
Which is?
Of those presented, which is to consume all of the open space monies and return some $700,000 back to the telecom amount to roads.
Consume it on what?
Basically using it for the tunnel project and the trailhead project and the Jordan River Trail project. So the open space monies would be consumed for trails, both the tunnel project and the trailhead.
Help me understand, because I thought that was the intention a year and a half or so ago, 2 years, I can't remember.
Correct.
Say take the remaining money, put it towards the Jordan
Correct.
Parkway, and then expend it.
And because the bids came in so well, and we did so well on the projects, we have actually underspent that amount, but because we moved road money over for the tunnel project, we're just saying you could take the money that you recommended for the open space project and actually do a portion of the tunnel with it.
How much of that road money was
Moved?
a gift, if you will, from the state legislature? It was about $1 million. Remember, we made a transfer from 40th West.
$1.1 million went to 4000 West
Right.
for that road reconstruct as a portion of that utility project and road reconstruct.
And in return for us moving that, the legislature, they gave us some money. How much
They
of
gave
that?
us some money for the road project on 4000. We moved some money to the tunnel project.
Mm-hmm. And how much is that what you're identifying as the money that went over?
Right.
So really what we have is $382,000, like you're saying,
In open space money.
Okay.
That can go to the tunnel.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Any other?
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to understand how the telecom tax comes into play with this.
The road money was transferred because it was money that was granted by the state legislature, and that $1.1 million that we would have spent on 4000 out of telecom tax became available for the tunnel project. And that was a previous council budget that was authorized that move of those monies. And so that's how funding for the tunnel project was set up.
Okay, so help me understand, when you talk return the telecom tax balance to the capital roads account?
Right.
Just that amount. We're not dedicating ongoing funds from the telecom tax to capital roads.
Correct.
Okay.
We're not.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. So this $750,000, and I like it. I see the boxes that make sense where the money's coming from and that, but that's a lot of money. I'd like to know before we make a decision, frankly, what projects you're proposing with this money.
Which road projects? Basically, the next priorities on your list. And we are currently in the midst of getting ready to bid 56 North. That's a $7 million project. These monies can cover any overruns there. We're starting into the full design of 90th South. That's a $3 million project yet to be bid for spring. If we have any overruns there, it could be used for that project. Any number of different road projects could come into play against this funding.
Good answer. And then, so to Ryan, will you do due diligence and do a transfer out and transfer in so we know where the money is being moved and why?
Yeah, we would have to do that. We have to track that very diligently because of the open space bond. Like I said, our finance recommendation is we get rid of that money in the open space bond. It's way past due.
We'll be able to track it.
Yes, we can track it.
Thanks, Mayor.
A motion would be in order. Yes.
Before we make a quick motion, I have a comment. To go back, what we just talked about was the state legislature through Senator Niederhauser, I believe. Sandy worked with former Mayor Johnson. Really, it was Niederhauser. Had desire to finish the trail. And so what they said to us is said, look, we have monies we can give you for roads. So if you're willing to take a grant of $1 million, because that's the cost it would have been to finish this, and apply this to a project, and we said 40th South Works, so we applied it to 40th, and then take another, so put it on there and take the money from another bucket and put it towards, it's just kind of a funny way to get around to funding the trail, but that's what happened. And so we took other monies. So it wasn't like we took money from roads or whatever, but what we did is we just received it in one area, into one bucket, and then from another, and applied it towards the trail. But at the same time, we also said take the remaining amount of the open space bond money and apply it towards this trail and get it done. Let's spend this money because it's true. This been since I think 2005. And we had 2 years. In fact, we had the IRS kind of breathing on us for a while and saying, hey, I can spend this money, and it became a problem. So I guess the point that I'm saying is I'm not quite certain I see the connection that this should go back to roads. And I say that knowing, the history, I've been a huge proponent of the telecommunications tax. Dave, you can attest to this, I have fought moving any money away from our roads the whole way. But I don't feel comfortable taking open space bond money and putting it towards roads. And that's what I think.
That's not what's happening. What they're doing is applying it to the trail, just applying the full amount to zero out that account and not carry it forward any further.
But what was just said is
the money
not
from
that.
roads, from telecommunications under option 2 would then be moved to roads that was used out of the road fund. But we're zeroing out that I think we're way past due on zeroing out the open space money to begin with. So
We're zeroing out the open space bond money to apply towards roads.
No, we're applying that to the project and pulling telecommunications money and putting it back into roads. Is that right, Bryce?
Maybe another way of looking at it. You made the description earlier, Councilmember Southworth, of the legislature saying, hey, we'll give you money to take care of a road project if you'll take road money and you'll go over and do this tunnel. Well, what they didn't take into account is that we had this open space bond money sitting over here that needed to be used for open space. And if we would have accounted for that very first, so what we're saying is, let's not even touch the money that the city moved, telecommunication tax that had been appropriated for roads. Let's not even touch that. Let's first put all of our open space money towards the open space projects, trails and tunnels.
Okay, I understand.
And then anything left over that we need to meet the balance out of that telecommunication money. And what's left is there's a balance that could be moved over or moved back to roads.
Sounds like we're talking about the same thing because we have the $1 million grant. And instead of using that $1 million all the way, we put some open space funds to build the trails, which means we didn't spend the entire $1 million we're supposed to.
Well, the grant money that came from the state was for the road
For the trail
project. We took the money that we would have used
Right,
for the
right,
road
right,
project
right,
and
right,
moved it down. And we just didn't need to use it all.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had that money to move over to the trail. So, okay, let me try it one more time. Because they gave us the money to put on 40th West, we were able to move another set of telecommunications money over that we're already going to use on 40th West. Now we're saying, well, since we didn't use all that telecommunications money, which really in my mind is actually the grant from the state, and that's where legally you could say, oh, it's not. Well, it is. That's just the money coming from a different pot. And we're saying, well, we spent up the open space bond money now, so we didn't spend all of that money that came indirectly from the state. And that's the argument I'm making. So indirectly in a roundabout, very complicated, tie yourself in knots way, we're saying that we can spend open space money on streets.
Well, I'll tell you what,
That's
I would
very
have to defer
complicated.
to Ryan. And so if we say it costs this much for the tunnel and the trail, and we're going to first allocate this money to it, if the legislature did not require us to use all of the money that we diverted from roads over and have to use it on the tunnel, then that argument could be made much easier. But from our research of the legislation, they did not require that we use all that money from roads to go towards the tunnel. Therefore, the open space money took care of the tunnel and the trail, and we just did not have to spend all of that transfer that came from the bond.
Right, and you can justify it that way, but what I'm saying is you really are trading one for the other.
They're all pots of money and for different purposes. In fact, that's why the legislature did what they did, is because they said, we don't have money in our pot to give you that can go towards a tunnel, but we do have money that can go towards roads. And it's just whether you feel comfortable in saying, yep, we put the open space money towards open space, and we account for that. And while we anticipated needing to use all of that transfer for the tunnel, we just didn't need to, so we can put it back over in the road projects and fund more road projects. So,
Which is true, and I guess that's what I'm saying. You can, you take that money and you turn one pot into something else, and pretty soon it's not where it began. I mean, I don't think it's difficult. Yes, it's very difficult to follow the money, but that's what I'm asking you to do, is follow the money here. The state, and I could be on my own here, which it looks like I might be. But the state gave us money, which we then took some other money and moved it. The expectation was that we'd spend that $1 million on the trail. Now, we thought it might cost more at the time, if I remember, so we allocated all of our open space money as well to add to the state's money.
yeah.
And what we're saying now is, well, we actually didn't spend the state's money, we spent the open space money, so we have the state's money, which really isn't the state's money, it's the city's money. This is where it gets complicated. And now we're going to move that back over to, that's,
You actually got that backwards. The money that the state gave us was spent on a project on 40th West
Yes.
2 years ago.
All of it.
All of it,
all of it.
100%.
Absolutely.
And we moved money that we had in whatever fund, the telecommunication fund, over to the trail with the open space.
The money
bond
we would have originally spent on 40th West, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
forget about the state now, because the state money is spent.
Right.
So we took our money, where we can use anywhere we want, on anything we want, moved it over there, and added the trail money to it, thinking that the trail would cost more than it did.
Absolutely.
Now, to clean up our books and clean up, because I think we're way beyond the open space bond money limitations, we're just trying to apply that to that and clean up that account, then there's no more money left, and what's our money that's left over will be put back in telecommunications.
Which is a fair assessment. I guess the point, last point, listen, I'm done, that I'm making is you could make the decision, did you spend open space money or did you spend road money? And that's what you're going to do. And I'm just saying, I think in my mind, we spent road money, not open space.
To
So
affirm
you want to
that,
keep the open space account open, is that what you're saying?
I would, because I think that money was bonded for open space, and then in a back, kind of a back, we were taking and we're going to move it to roads. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I want to support the roads. I want to do it. I don't feel comfortable taking open space money, applying it to
The
roads.
trail isn't a road, though. The trail and the tunnel are not a road, they're open space.
Ben?
Right.
Yes.
I just want to point out that that's why we gave you two options. If it's too much of a stretch for somebody to say, which again, we've asked Ryan, are we doing anything unethical with the money? And based on how we believe it can be apportioned, you've been given two different ways of looking
Absolutely.
at it, and you as a council deciding which way you want to look at it. But
And
we
I
don't
just gave
believe
you-
in either one of them, in talking with Ryan, that we are violating the law in either case. We can defend either one of those courses. So with that being said, you choose.
And I gave you one really long, exceedingly long opinion, and I'm done. So,
Okay. Looking for a motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Haga.
I move to adopt resolution 14186 authorizing open space fund balance be used towards the 90th South used to be on the 90th South pedestrian. I'm sorry. Pedestrian, should I start over?
Yeah, you better.
I move to adopt resolution 14186 authorizing the open space fund balance being used towards the 90 South pedestrian tunnel expenses, zero out the bond, and return the telecommunications tax balance to the road account.
You have a motion by Councilmember Haga. I will second that motion for discussion. Discussion of the motion. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. This may seem a little bit out of place, but during the conversation, I almost felt like I'd flashed back to watching The Princess Bride, where clearly I can't take this because of this, but the conversation was a little bit dizzying. But I did catch glimpses of what Councilmember Southworth was alluding to, and I think I would speak against the motion in this case.
Any other comments? Let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Councilmember Southworth?
no.
Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-2 in favor.
Okay. Item 9D, discussion and possible action regarding weirs at approximately 70th South and 2700 West. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. There have been, let me pull up the right document here real quick. Shortly after I joined the City Council, I was contacted by one of the residents, Don Carlson, who was good enough to be here tonight. He's been going back and forth with me by email for over 2.5, almost 3 years now on a problem that he identified. He has irrigation water that comes to his property, and he noticed that quite some time back the flow of water had been cut short. He engaged me, I engaged staff, and the determination was made that the issue stemmed from an issue when the city undertook a safe sidewalks project back about 1993. So it's been quite some time that he hasn't had the full flow that he should. Engaging with staff, originally there was a comment made to myself and to Mr. Carlson that the issue had been identified, it would be corrected, and there was a date communicated either fall of 2012 or spring of 2013. I dropped the issue after being told that it would be taken care of. I didn't hear too much from Mr. Carlson until this spring when he brought it up, mentioned that it hadn't been completed yet. I followed up with staff and found out that they had requested help with funding from council and help with prioritization. In the in the improvement list that we received, I don't know if it's distributed to all of council. I know that I did receive a copy of it by email in May, so that's the one I held on to. It was lowest rated on the priorities list, project number 30, and also the cheapest with an estimated cost of about $35,000. But because it is low on the priorities list and because funding for stormwater is tied up, they're not able to take action right now. So staff made the comment that I should bring it to council for prioritization and funding. I recognize that this is likely tied up in some of the improvements that need to happen on 70th South with stormwater. But given the length of time that Mr. Carlson has been dealing with this issue and the fact that our investigation determined that the issue was caused by a project that city undertook, I'd like to see if there's support from council to expedite the project and allocate funding so it can be taken care of sooner rather than later. Mr. Carlson's been waiting well, 23 years since the problem originally occurred, 2.5 years since we were able to make a determination as to what the problem was, and 2 years since he was told it would be taken care of. Since it's something the city caused, I would like to see if we can move forward quicker rather than putting it off. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions. The packet does include quite a bit of the email correspondence back and forth. But if there's any questions from council or if staff have any comments to add to it, I'd be happy to entertain any.
Councilmember Southworth.
Did you say this was 93 or 95?
1993 is when the Safe Sidewalk project took place. And as best as Dave Murphy and the other engineers were able to tell, that's the project that impacted the flow of water to his property. It took him a while to realize it wasn't just the irrigation company, there was something bigger going on. And then it took him a while to get in touch with somebody with the city who would be able to help research the project, and it took a while for staff to be able to get the time to go research. So yeah, it's been quite a while.
So I remember this topic a couple years ago. I remember this coming before us, and I remember I'm going to have the same opinion tonight that I had then. That typically I don't like to take things out of the list without looking at everything, because in context, because it's not fair to every other project. But this is one where this long ago, caused by the city, that we said we're going to fix, and then 2 years ago, I thought it was done. I thought we're done, and to find out now it's not, I'm really surprised and would be very supportive of taking care of this problem. And irregardless of where it falls, moving it up because of those reasons, that the city caused it years ago, and we've already promised that we'd fix it, and haven't kept in that promise. So yeah, I'd be supportive of that.
Thank you. And Councilmember Southworth, the one thing I would add, I thought you might ask to see everything in context. So in the packet, the little request for council action I prepared on page 2, it does have the section with the projects that require improvement, so you can see where that falls. And that's where, out of the $2.9 million worth of these smaller projects, this is the least expensive at the $35,000, where the top one is the $1.4 million. But that page 2 will kind of put a little bit of context for you.
Mayor, could I make a comment?
Yes, please.
We had originally anticipated that this project would come out of stormwater, and that's why it's been delayed. We thought that it was going to be funded, then it wasn't. But since it was caused by a road project, it's possible that we could take road funds, for instance, the telecom funds, and fund this.
Hey, we have $380,000 now.
I'm sorry?
And we have about $380,000.
I'd just like to state I met Mr. Carlson out there and looked at it, and it's caused from a really reverse sloping pipe that I don't know who put it in, but that's the issue. I hope that this council will move forward on the 70th South project, and the irrigation season is all but over now this year. I'm hoping that we will move expeditiously to move forward once we get the facts on the 70th South. I believe that this could be corrected with that project very easily, and overflow of the canal. All that has to be done at the canal anyway on the storm drain system, so it would make it a lot easier to do it as a part and a lot more cost effective as a part of that project than try to do it as a standalone project. Probably less than half the cost because we have to tie into the canal anyway with that project. So what did you want to do, Chris?
Well, my personal feeling is that we put Mr. Carlson on hold a couple times. I realized that we could probably do it less expensive if we were to bundle everything together. But based on how long he's been waiting, the indication from staff that we thought we were going to be able to take care of it sooner. I would move. Anybody have any more comments, or can I go with the motion? Okay. I would move that we direct staff to return to council with a recommendation for a funding source from the current fiscal year budget and escalate the priority of this project so that it can be done before the next irrigation season begins.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Stoker. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none. Ms. Holt?
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I take a point of personal privilege briefly?
Briefly, yes, please.
I just want to thank Mr. Carlson for his willingness to work with staff, work with myself. He's been exceptionally patient. Wanted to say thank you for coming out tonight, and very much appreciate you working with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9E. Well, let's either discuss it or pull it, one or the other. Which do you want?
Give me the form.
Your
I'm
phone.
going to pull item E, 9E, mainly because I'm sick. But I think I want to bring this back next time because with the new ERP, which is our financial system, we'll actually know the real balance of the solid waste, and I think we'll have a little more factual information. But I know there's a neighbor in the audience. We're still looking at this storm drain issue, so I'll bring this back. Thanks, Mayor. So I'll.
Okay. That item is pulled then. We will go back to consent items. 7C, approve resolution 14-179, confirming the appointment of Bryce Hatterley as the interim city manager and the city's primary voting member on the Valley Emergency Communications Center Board of Trustees and to the Chamber of Commerce Board. And I brought this forward because it can only be, I'm already a member of the Chamber Board, and to be on the Board of Trustees at BEC, it has to either be the mayor or the city manager. So since I'm finding my time very short, I asked if Bryce would serve on that board, and he has stated he would. So we need to approve this resolution. You pulled it.
So, yeah, I'm not opposed to this at all. I just want to actually call out our interim city manager. What a professional job you've done in transition. And I think what I see on this vote is we actually are voting in public, supporting Bryce Hatterley as our city manager. And like the mayor said, we'll be voting members of the board. So I just wanted to call out a thank you for taking leadership.
Do you have a motion to approve?
I move to approve Resolution 14-179, confirming the appointment of Bryce Hatterley to serve as interim city manager and primary voting member of the Board of Trustees for BEC and Chamber of Commerce Board.
We have a motion by Councilmember Haga.
Second. Oh, you got it. You got it. It's yours.
I will second it. And discussion of the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
7E, approve resolution 14-181, authorizing the mayor to execute the local government contract between the Utah Department of Transportation, West Jordan City, and the Transportation Engineering Alliance, TEA Group, for construction engineering services for the 5600 West, 6300 South to 70th South project intersection in the amount not to exceed $447,061.73. Wendell.
We'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Yes. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to double check on this. So the amount of the contract was not to exceed $447,000, but in the packet, the last, well, I guess it's the top of the email list, and here at page 21 of the packet, makes a comment, West Jordan is okay with the contract. We acknowledge that the limit for this contract is $600,000 for the life of the contract, including any and all future modifications, and will be sufficient to complete the work. Do we anticipate that there's going to be additional requests, or is it really no more than 447?
It's no more than 447. That 660 is a UDOT pool contracting limit that any contract cannot exceed based on the level of federal spending. So that's basically one of the UDOT rules, and it's just a holdover.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Unless there's any other questions, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please.
Move to approve consent item 7E.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Southworth. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Mayor Roth? Mayor Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, last item on the agenda tonight would be consent item F. Approve resolution 14-182 authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with GBS Benefits, Inc. as the employee benefit broker for the city. Bryce.
Thank you, Mayor. We put an RFP out. We received, I think, 6 applications from candidates. We reviewed those. There were some pluses and minuses, but in the end, we determined that based on pluses and minuses of each candidate, but as the mayor, John, and I sat down and scored all of these, we recognize that the relationship that we have established with GBS has been a good, strong relationship. They are on the cutting edge of finding ways to cut costs, save money. They have the ability to provide information that other brokers can't provide to us because of the way that they've worked with the insurance companies and things like that. And because of those efforts, we believe that GBS is the best broker to continue serving the city. Realize that going forward, I know that many of you have expressed a feeling about getting the right insurance and everything. That is next. That has no reflection on GBS. They will provide whatever we ask them to provide in the way of insurance programs. So that's our recommendation. Are there any questions?
Councilmember McConaughey?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions. First of all, I know in the past we've asked if they'd be willing to shop out other insurance providers, specifically PEHP, and in the past they've been hesitant. Are they willing to price them out?
Well, again, we have, as a committee, given them direction. They're always willing to price anybody that we ask them to price. So that's not a problem. Did I misquote that? Yeah, they're here to serve us. If we ask them to give us prices, they'll get them for us.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is for the mayor. I believe you're part of the selection committee, correct? It mentions that it's a unanimous recommendation. Do you have any thoughts or insight to add?
I would just state that we read through every proposal that was given, and far and above, GBS was the standout in that. I think we had 7.
That's 6.
6, okay, 6. And far and above the standout. So that would be my opinion. You have a second question.
No, I wanted to defer to you, Councilmember.
You need to
Because you were the one who
pulled
pulled the item, sorry.
So Brian should answer the question. Let me go to the motion.
I move to appoint GBS Benefits, Inc. as the employer benefit broker for the City of West Jordan to approve the contract between the City of West Jordan and GBS Benefits, Inc. and approve resolution 14182 authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
Have a motion by Councilmember Haga.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Hanson. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Roth?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, just for the audience, we had suspended the rules. That's why we didn't have to make a motion to extend the meeting, so we had suspended the rules earlier. Councilmember Southworth.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Something that's left me a little confused with the evening tonight is when we finished our debate on, well, I don't know that we finished, that's the question I have, on the Wage Evaluation Committee's proposal. We abruptly ended, and the question I have is, are we done with that? We didn't have any alternative motions, there was not any direction, it was a failed vote, and then we moved on, and I feel like we kind of left that issue hanging. It was the hanging chat of the night. And I'm wondering if that issue, well, I'm not wondering, I'm suggesting that issue deserves some direction out of the council and not just leave this for question, and I don't know if that's appropriate or not. This is kind of something that I haven't experienced this. We've always exhausted our resources, I guess, but it feels like we just abruptly ended. And I don't know if that was intentional or we just kind of went to a break all of a sudden, and I thought we were going to come back and discuss this. So my question is, can we open that up? Can we finish that debate, or are we done?
We're done for the night. Someone on the, well, actually it was a tied vote, so I don't even know how you could bring it back.
Hey, Chad's not here. He can bring it back.
I mean, we can have the staff prepare some other...
A different proposal?
Proposal, if they choose to do that.
I think we can
Mayor.
have a reconsideration vote.
Yes.
It's been suggested that we left folks out of the deliberation on this, and so with that being said, if you as a council would like to appoint some council members to be on that, I definitely feel that it would help us so that we're not, as I would put it, shooting in the dark at this point in time, because I'm a little confused. Lots of great comments. I feel I have answers for many of them, but I don't quite know which direction to go going forward. So if council members want to participate in this, 3 of you, I'm open for whatever you're willing to offer.
You like saying maybe the 3 that we appointed earlier to do this? Maybe
Well,
engage?
that was for a different item, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, but I believe we could bring this back on the 8th and put it agendized and talk about when we have a full council. I believe we're going to have a full council on the 8th, so
Okay.
we'll decide then, see what...
So just put it back on. Is there anything you want modified or changed, or add some information maybe to help for consideration? I guess we'll evaluate that. Thank you.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. My thought is maybe it might be appropriate for those who were in opposition to it to try and meet with staff to see if we can find some points that are more common that we can build on, and see if we can isolate and eliminate some of those things that are problematic. So that hopefully when it comes back on the 8th, we have something that most, if not all of us, can wholeheartedly support.
Please. That'd be great. That'd be a good idea. He wants to meet with staff.
If I can just make one more comment, what John was trying to remind me of is that if, and I hope something is passed later, because I really, on my behalf, would like to tell the employees, hey, we're trying to get this money to work as quickly as we can, but that is going to impact that window of opportunity where this data had to be entered and could have detrimental impact on when we're able to put some of these elements of the ERP into action. I can't tell you what that is, but that's why I explained earlier, we have this window of opportunity to enter the data once. So, and I'm not using it as a threat, I just need you to be aware there could be implications going forward, so.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none.